Hello and welcome to session 2 of The Day Tehul Died. Good afternoon, good evening, in the future, in the past, now, whenever you're watching this. Well, we had some really exciting stuff happen in the last session. I'm sure everyone here can attest. And if you're looking at the bottom row here, you can see we actually have a new player with us. And with that, we are actually going to start with our newest catalyst. David, it's cold. It's really, really cold. It's colder than you've ever been. It's deeper than the coldness of your flesh. It's deeper than the coldness of your bites to your bones, even. And that's the first thing you're thinking as you start waking up from a daze. You, as you're shaking your head, trying to get this feeling of some sense of what's going on here, you begin to blink. You're looking around you now. What was the last thing you remembered? Something doesn't seem right. As you're looking around here, you can see everything's still now. Nothing's shaking. But you're not sure what exactly is happening. David, would you mind describing yourself as you look around at the devastation still around you? If, strangely, as you're beginning to look around, you're noticing everything seems rather muted. Like there, you can see the building, one of the buildings nearby you is on fire, another is ripped apart in certain areas, but everything seems muted. Like sound seems to be like underwatery and echoey, and the fire doesn't seem as vibrant. You can't really smell the smoke. So, David, if you would mind describing yourself
All right.
and your situation.
All right. So I'm getting up. Something happened. The earth shook. I remember collapsing. Now I get up and look around and see the devastation. Clearly something did happen. Something terrible. I live here. I work here. My family's here. I need to find them. But everything does seem wrong. Gray. Quiet. Strange. What happened exactly? I am a human of Clan Anzalon. I'm a long way from home. Came here for work. 166 cycles, or the equivalent of 35 years. 5'11", 190 pounds, although I'm not really, feels lighter somehow now. Am I bleeding? Did I lose something?
As you're looking at yourself, it seems weird. I mean, even now, as you're looking at yourself, you don't seem to like those colors of your own skin seem like a lot lighter, or so. Maybe it's something's off. But as you're checking yourself, you don't see like you've bleeded. There's no blood on you, which is even more weirder considering as you're looking around. But as you're looking down at yourself, you notice something is like at your feet. As a matter of fact, your feet is literally standing in a body.
Huh! Step back.
And what's weird is as you step out, it's not like you so much step out, but you step like through the body, which is just shocking enough as it is. And there's just that cold, that deep, oppressing cold that's right through you. And as you're looking down at probably in shock of the fact that of the strangeness of this situation, you begin to focus a little more on the body. Looks very familiar, a little too familiar. And it's with dawning realization you know exactly whose body that is, and that doesn't make any sense. That's not possible.
And I exclaim, no, no. This can't be.
It's you. It is your body, and it's lying there on the ground. And there seems to be, and even as you're looking at it, and the more you look at it, the more you try to rationalize the fact that it's like, no, that can't, it's not right. No, this has got to be this is some awful dream. And there's bodies, but there's other people like running fairly distant, very muted, and they seem to be running past you. No, no, not just past you. One actually runs through you, and you actually see they have a cold shiver, and for a moment you literally feel their warmth as it passes through you, and you almost like latch onto it, but it's gone, it's fleeting in that moment.
I see them running, fleeing from something. Look around. I don't have time for their concerns. I need to check on my family. My homestead. It's not too far.
No, it's not too far. And with that, I'm assuming with that priority, your mind wanting to get there, you start heading in that direction.
That is correct.
All right. So with that morbid thought pushed out of your head, the only thoughts that really seem to matter to you, you start moving, and honestly, with a greater degree of ease than you would have thought. I mean, the world isn't shaking anymore. Not like when that horrendous jolt sent you flying at one point, and as your memory starts to somewhat seem to return as you're trying to clarify the events that seem to be going on. There was a moment where literally where the world just started shaking and bucking in a way that made no sense. Buildings were falling around you, and you knew you had to get to your family. That's why you started running in this direction in the first place. But then something happened. It wasn't like so much you were like struck by something, but rather like, and then you do remember it, that feeling like you were literally being torn, like you were being torn apart, but not like your flesh was being rended, but like something else. And then you remember the snap and everything going black. And that's when you woke up like this. Now you have to know. You have to know if your wife or your daughter is all right. And so you run and you run.
This is wrong. It's all wrong. This isn't. This shouldn't happen. It can't. Too much. Too much at stake. They need me.
So you get there, and you see where your homestead was, and it's to your horror you begin to see that in that very muted sort of way, the part of the building has started to catch with one of those flames that has been starting to spread from certain buildings.
And I put a hand over my mouth upon seeing that as I exclaim again, "Ah!" I dash forward.
Mm. It's probably your first instinct to try and try to bash open the door, but it's to your shock, you don't really so much as bash through it as you just tumble. Like they, I'm sure you had that natural reaction is to just bash into it, just to
Right, give it
slam
the
it
shoulder.
open.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you carry yourself directly through it, so you are losing a health gauge for that.
Okay.
But you do. You just tumble right through it, smack down into the floor. It doesn't hurt at all, which is even weirder. And you don't really feel the hurt, but you just feel that biting cold bite through you a little more as you're in your house, and you're looking around and you're seeing the fires starting to catch in parts of the building. And that's the worst. That's the weirdest part. As it's still trying to maintain your senses, is everything is all gray and muted, and you still don't smell the smoke, and you can't feel the heat. Just cold.
Yeah, I stumble through the door, and I didn't hit it. I have my brow crinkled in confusion as I look around, and the smoke, the heat, it's not hindering at all. I can't even feel it. But I don't have time for that. I regain my senses and look around. They're here. At least, I hope they are.
Mm-hmm. So you actually start searching, I'm assuming, and it's
Yeah.
not long. You know this house, and oddly enough, it's like there's I'm assuming you have like a second story as you like jump up the stairs. It's almost like you like take a small leap and you just find yourself at the top of the stairs.
It's
That
like a
was,
gliding up them.
but yeah, no time to think about that though.
And I'm
But
calling
as you
out
get up there,
to them.
there's no answer. No answer at all, and
Maria! Ava! Can you hear me?
there's no answer. As you're looking around trying to find it, you're beginning to not necessarily calm down, but you're starting to grab details with your own senses, your own sense of perception on here. The beds have been disheveled. It's like they've moved. Nothing has been picked up. There's like pots and jars have cracked and stuff. Stuff has been tossed over, probably from the force of these quakes. The house is inside the house is just a disheveled mess alone, let alone, but they're not in here. There's not even a trace of their bodies, which can only make you assume that they've probably gotten out, which is a relief. But now that just leaves the question: where are they?
No sign of them here. Yet they didn't. Looks like they didn't take anything. They left in a hurry. That's good. But where? I will not stand in the burning house while I think that over.
Yeah. All right. So we'll let you get out of the house as you go back into the streets and you see these shapes of people you've only just gotten to know. Some being carried on stretchers or makeshift stretchers. Some being carried by others. Some of them look really hurt, horrendously hurt, and some you actually see people almost like yourself, kind of just hovering over themselves. It's a weird sensation, like they're walking next to their own bodies as they're being carried off, but they don't seem to have the same sense of awareness that you do. All they seem to be focused on is just what that is.
Hmm.
And then suddenly, one of them looks up, and then there's a flash of like shock in his face, and a beam of light rockets down and impales this ogre who was standing over his own body, and he's looking down in shock as this pitchfork, two-pronged, starts to lift him up and with horrendous ease, like some kind of trophy, as this being of light. And that's all you can really think, is this thing is composed of light itself, with great wings of feathery light and fiery red horns crowning its brow as it holds up, and its black eyes, you can see those black eyes glittering with some kind of oblivion you can almost feel. And this you can hear. This is the first sound you've heard in a long time. Not from the ogre, but from this being of light that's holding this body up like the ogre didn't weigh nearly the 400 pounds or more that it was. But you hear the sucking of breath. And the ogre's face begins to stretch, and it's more than just its face. Its entire body starts to stretch as though it's like being suctioned to a small hole, as its essence and being starts to go right into the mouth of this thing.
My expressions, my thoughts have gone from confusion to awe to now terror as I back away from this thing, this creature, destroying this ogre somehow with forces and powers I've never even... I might have read about them, but I'd never even dreamed of anything like that. And I flee rather quickly, turn tail and run. What a nightmare.
A nightmare. And it's just going to keep getting worse. As the more you run, the more devastation, and yet unable to feel this devastation, unable to smell the smoke, the heat, not even tripping over rocks. The stumbling is out of only your own panic, not any natural hazard. And it's with that as you stumble into a moment where there's a brief moment where you actually bump into someone. And this is actually like a physical bump, which is the weirdest part, but you don't even think about that, really. You kind of keep moving out of the fear, the panic. And I'll leave you that to your thoughts as you make your way deeper into the ruins of Flame Dance and catching into it. I'll go back to the rest of this group. So, few of you are uninjured from the last situation. Some of your bodies are actually being carried back into parts of Flame Dance, away from that giant hole that has taken away huge sections of the field. Muhal, you are grievously hurt. Hishka, you too are not in any real solidly good condition, though more people, at least some people, seem to be more interested in helping Muhal and a few of the other injured than they are of you. Maybe it's not necessarily out of like compassion, but more out of like fear of you, that they don't necessarily approach you, and maybe your own attitude towards them kind of warding them off. But there is one who stays.
Whenever they approach, oh, get away from me! As I'm worried about the contagiousness of my own blood.
The only one who does seem to stay close, at least, is Rakondu of the group. But even then, he's still giving his directions of things. Atlas, you're also you're with your family, is helping those. Rose is definitely staying near Muhal, and has been desperately like trying to help carry him or make sure he's okay. There's been cries for some to bring the injured.
I look for,
Bring to
within the crowd. Like I look for if there are any other forest watchmen. Yeah, if there was, I would have either got them or actually I'm gonna look for someone in the crowd that seems to be a bit more outspoken. I'm gonna look over towards Atlas as he was sort of screaming something about tomorrow, maybe he's a clergy or something. But within the crowd, as we're making our way back into Flame Dance, I approach you, Atlas, and I say in Pogonese to you, my posture up straight, my gaze not really looking at you. I look around, at the people, as we're moving about, and then I sort of look at you and I speak. You're there.
Yes.
I will be going to get the other forest watch. I will need you and other outspoken individuals to make sure the people of Flame Dance here are safe, keeping away from any pitfalls and the like. Can you do this?
By the way, I want to know if Lars did come with me when I asked him on the end of the last session, or if he was too afraid and I came alone.
He's coming with you. I mean, the family's sticking together, so you're all together in this kind of group. You're all moving back, kind of into the city, away from that unholy sight of all the flies and beings of light that came straight from the depths of the underworld. And there's cries of many different languages but there's at least a rumor going on, which is kind of where you all are going, that for people to gather near the Harvest House, or certain other churches are offering, like, for medicinal aid, a place to try and recuperate those who are injured.
Can
And
you
that
do
seems
this?
to be
Okay,
where
well, I'm gonna look at my brother, and then I'm gonna look back at you, Rakandu, and I'm gonna ask you, but what about him? And I signal to Hishka in the floor, and I seem concerned. And you
Like
actually
I don't
seem
even look
more.
at him. Like I just look to my side, then I look back at you. I don't respond to that. I'm noticeably shorter than you. I'm about 5'7".
You don't respond to that.
I just look at you and I just don't say anything.
I say, someone has to take care of him. I want to do that. I look at you firmly, like I'm,
And I just sort of look at you and I
like,
sort of.
you know,
Are you
like I'm
a?
set.
Do you know what you're doing? Are you a surgeon? I like look at the
My
chain and like your physique. I'm like, oh, questioningly, I
my
see that.
my brother is acquainted with many arts, and he has taken care of me when I am wounded. At least he could do some good. Someone needs to. I don't see anyone helping him.
Who is your brother?
He's right next to me, and when I said my brother, I did look at him.
Yeah, Lars nods. He definitely seems, I'm going to say, pale. Maybe it's out of the fear of what's happened and everything like that, but he definitely seems to be in some kind of shock, like he's kind of going through the motions of things.
Mhm.
Still, he's like responding to certain things, but it's definitely very clear he's not exactly completely in his right state of mind
I look at
right
him
now.
and
Like he's kind of in that dream, like almost like this is just a bad dream kind of idea.
I look at him, then I look back up at you, Atlas. I see them. That will be done. When we go back into Flame Dance, look upon the rebel. Be careful where you step. See if you can find any more of your barber's tools to find it and administer your treatments to him. Until then, you there. I look up at you, Atlas. I'll need you to help keep these people calm. Hmm? Do this.
I'll do my best.
And I nod. And I turn and I look for another forest watchman, if there are
There's
any
none
amongst
near,
them.
none amongst your group, but you do remember running that there were other groups starting to make their way to other parts of the outskirts of the city, and there were definitely Forest Watch members doing several different things, either guiding them or some trying to grab people out of burning buildings and
I'd say,
such.
I I separate myself from Atlas and like the crew, the hundreds of people or the dozens of people that are moving back to Flame Dance, and I sort of move towards Hishka a bit. I see you, holding your. I guess you still have that stick in your body. I didn't take that out or anything like that. But you still have that wound, whatnot. Uh, I just look
And
at you and
I'm on my knees and elbows, and I just seem to be like just coughing, just coughing out like blood and sort of phlegm and bile that seem to be coming out of my mouth, I'm definitely saying something that I'm sort of muttering to myself some incomprehensible garbage. Like, oh,
I
yes.
say in more ghoulish to you, and I stand a little more than 10 feet away from you as I sort of approach you. Ishka,
So look up, Rakondu.
surgeon will be coming to treat your wounds. Do not move. Stay there.
Fire. He must bring flame to discard my blood, which is sorely contaminated. Cast my blood into the flame so the people of this area do not become afflicted as I am.
And I nod at that, and I turn and I just dismiss myself. And I make my way over, and I look for like, I mean, I do have some. Wait, actually, I do.
Good question. Do
I'm looking
you?
for streetwise. No, no. Well, I was looking for someone like a clergy, like someone that I would know would be like a leader within the community.
Mm. Well, there's several different clergy members. I mean, obviously you have the high priest of
Yeah.
opiate amongst your group, but that's obviously not the one you're looking for. I'm assuming you're looking for something else. Um, you're kind of running through your head as you go, like some other people that you might be able to think of the leader communities. Not a priest. You do know King Deliria, but you're not sure where he would be
Yeah.
in this whole thing. There's Lord Hejax of the Fest Hall of Bacchus, but that doesn't seem right. Maybe.
All right. So I look to like a human man that is older. Um,
Mhm.
I could sort of gauge that a bit. And I
Yeah.
just approach him. Like I scan with my sort of insight. I'm looking for someone that looks most with it, like together, like they're not as shaken, um,
Mm.
and they're a man, obviously. I mean, obviously, a woman can't
Yeah.
do this. Uh, my
Clearly.
own sensibilities, a little fogging me a little bit in this, but
Yeah.
I approach,
Yeah.
a human man.
And despite the fact, obviously, since you're, yeah,
Although, like,
you do.
are there any Frayne women at all? Are there any Frayne here?
You have not seen a Frayne
Yeah.
since
Okay.
since you've been in here.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
definitely Flame Dance doesn't seem to have. If they even have one, you have not seen one, which is interesting, perhaps
Mhm.
to you, that Fraynes would not be in Flame Dance. But I mean, the majority of species you have seen here would be satyrs and orcs,
Mhm.
being like the highest majorities. Humans coming in not too far after.
Yeah, orcs are strange, so I'm gonna go to a human, and I'm address him in Pekingese. You there?
Huh? And he kind of looks up at you. He's definitely got a grim sort of set face um, on him as he looks at you. And there's this look of kind of like, I mean, to put it this way, it's like he's definitely got, as you said, it's kind of the person you were looking for, someone who seems to have his wits about him. But there's just it's that wits about him, but kind of like this deep sadness in
I'm
his
Ricardo
eyes as
of
he
I'm
looks up at you.
Ricardo Castillo of the Forest Watch. I need your assistance in a matter.
How can I
Grab a
help you,
torch.
Watchman?
Grab a torch. Light it aflame. You see the blood? And I
He,
say, you see the blood, and I gesture back to the monster.
he kind of recoils a bit, but he grits his teeth for a moment because I mean, he definitely seems to have respect for the Force Watchman. So he looks at you with those sad eyes, those weary sad eyes, and he nods.
I'm going to need you to light aflame a torch. There will be campfires needed to be constructed. I'm sure the housings have taken considerable damage.
And
But
he,
for the
mhm. and
immediate,
you,
I need you to burn the blood which trails behind that man and run the flame over yourself if you get any blood on you. Can you do this for me?
he looks back at this thing, the thing that you're pointing at him, and wanting him to come near. He kind of closes his eyes for a moment. Yes, yes, Watchman, I can.
I nod. Thank you.
He
I
kind of,
turn.
yeah, he makes his way to try and find at least a burning plank, which doesn't seem too hard. There, you can smell the smoke thick in the air from buildings that are being caught on fire.
And then like I dismiss myself from him, and I move amongst the crowd a bit. I don't look at the wary faces with like a bit of like warrior compassion. It's more like I'm on a mission. I'm a sort of a hardened. I definitely seem not visibly nearly as shaken as some of the other denizens here. For a note for the other catalysts, But I move through the crowds making their way to Flame Dance, and I move in a bit of like a power walk pace, which falls into a light jog as I make my way into Flame Dance, looking for Forest Watchmen to get further orders as to what to do.
Yeah.
As I'm no leader.
Yeah. Things are. Yep. No, you're no leader. But then things are. This is bad. This is a really unprecedented situation that's going on here. And we'll let you continue your search for things. Hishka, an older man with sad lines, another one of these strange creatures.
I think okay when Recondo left, I saw at my brother and I took like both his shoulders and I looked into his eyes and I said, "Do you remember the Ferrum that sat in the bar and continued to ask beverages from you? The one that had a tentacle coming out of his ear?"
Yeah, that was like 3 cycles ago.
Yeah, and you came to me and you said that that was a high 9, and you were not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then I told you that he's an outcast. He's one of us, and he's the reason the tavern exists. And then, when you served him that alcohol all night, you were shitting yourself in the pants. You got some rumors that saved our tavern. Many rumors that saved our tavern. Right now, that man over there, I signaled to Hishka, he is an outcast. He's fucking hideous. I want to puke just looking at him, but did you see what he did? I am looking at far. I mean, shit. But did you see what he do? He used the little strength that he had to save someone else. Now, I know you don't know what he's got, but I know that if someone can figure it out, it's you. And I know that he needs someone that no one is gonna approach. So come on, do this for me. I need to pay heed to what the watchman said and look after these people. Can you do this for me?
There's literally there is a look of fear in his eyes as he's realizing he might have to be left alone with this thing, but he kind of grips on and all right,
Okay.
I'll see what I can do.
I'll accompany you. I'll be with you until you reach him. Okay? Just to be sure, and then I'll leave you and go to the people. Okay?
All right.
Okay. And
So
I
you
do
start
so,
heading your way over.
exactly.
And you start making your way over. There's an older man, another human, who seems to be over there with a torch, and he seems to like be trying to get closer to Hishka to try and he's saying stuff to Hishka, but of course Hishka keeps roaring in a language that it doesn't seem either of you can understand, and sort of coughing up more blood, which the man keeps bringing the torch to and trying to stab the blood.
He does look orcish. Like my character thinks he's an orc with an absolutely horrible disease. That's what my character thinks. So I'm gonna actually talk Thraxa to him, and I am gonna say, "You, the savior of the satyr. My brother is very smart. He's a bit of a craven here, but he's very smart, and he's gonna try to help you. Okay? So please be good to him. Okay?" I say that to Hishka and Thraxa. I'm gonna leave you with him. And
I'm
gonna
looking up and I'm seeing humans for the first time ever. I'm just confused. How do you know the tongue of my people? What are you? As I look between you and Lars he's not of like a Uhamali ethnicity, isn't he?
The other one.
Yeah, Lars. Your bro.
Lars. Yeah, Lars, it's of another coloration, and but most of the features are kind of similar. Yeah, humanish, but yeah, you could also think it's a different species. I talk back to you and I say, look, I'm Atlas. I'm Grace's first bastard. This is my brother, Lars. He's the second. You can get my word from that. You can trust my word on that, and I will try to lead these people to safety. About the tongue, hey, I've lived here my whole life, and there's quite a lot of your people in this town. And when you work in a tavern, you really want to know as many languages as you can, especially if you try to keep it safe. So I wish you, I wish you, I wish you luck. I wish that Demar may bless you as you are on the Mar right now, and that whatever you worship may bless you so that you may survive. I, I
First,
be good to my brother, as I'm sure he'll be good to you. And I say this, you may see two things in my face, which usually very stoic to strangers, but it's nothing like that with you right now, probably in part because this is not a situation that brings out the stoicness of most people, and in part that you are quite aside. But instead of disgust, like you could see even a bit of disgust from here and here, but like you see mostly a mix of compassion and like like when he looks at you, like he touches like a part of his own body where you have one protruding bone, like if he could literally feel your pain, like he was worried about how painful it must be to be in whatever disease you are, but you do see kind of disgust, but you can see that mixture of pain and compassion and some fear, mostly when he says like be good to my brother.
there's a little bit of confusion is on my face as you've just come up and you sort of blurted a bit of your life story, like as an introduction. But then when you start talking about the Ground King and Damar and my hands and my knees are actually on Damar right now, and I heard you moments before. You were wishing some prayer to the Ground King. Are you a priest or druid or a follower of Damar? And if so, can you make any sense of this?
I am as lost as you are, but there are many people, and I see somewhere else that are even more lost than you and I. For the first thing we did, it was to try to help people out, and right now I leave you to my brother, and I must help some other
Wait,
people out.
wait,
But if you
as I raise like a pointing
listen,
finger and
listen to
it's
me.
pointing.
Listen to me. Like I'm not like I'm like, yeah, I seriously want to go, like, and I'm kind of, unless you tell me that you have like a great presence, it's like I'm used to not being interrupted and like be heard and shit. And I'm saying like, if you want to contact me, you can always come ask for Atlas at Grace's Bastards. If we can keep it up, at least we'll be around there. And then I could hear, maybe if you say something quick, I could hear you.
I'm just pointing at that owl creature thing with the big blue eyes that was orbs, which was sort of calming, or it sort of projected itself as some sort of leader amongst the people when all the chaos was going out, and its words sort of calmed the group. But I'm just totally confused as to what it is, and like why it's even being listened to. It looks ridiculous in my eyes, so I'm just pointing at it. It's like, what is that? What?
My character did ignore that before he went to help his people, even though he was like very, but he had a task to do, and there's a lot of people, and he left you with the person that he most things could probably help, and he's fearful himself about that, but he also, in his mind, he said he would help Demar, and right now helping Demar is helping everyone else, as much people as he can, and that's what he said to Rakandu. So he showed himself a lot of emotion for you, but he also showed, if you could see it, like there was duty on his eyes as he left.
There are sort of prejudices forming in my mind of non-orc species as they don't really seem to be able to hold a proper conversation and dialogue as in moments and when I'm sort of really like at a climax of the conversation, they just seem to just turn heel and walk away. This is the second time in as many conversations that this has happened with a non-orc, and as I just turned to the brother, it's like, you, what is? And still pointing at the Hibben. What is that creature? Why is it revered as a leader amongst these people?
He's definitely looking at you with like eyes. If there's definitely concern yeah, oh yeah, I got you. But there was definitely like concern, even if a little bit of disgust on Atlas' face. His brother's face is like almost like sheet white with fear of you and looking at you. And when you talk to him, I mean, obviously in Thrax, it's very clear that, I mean, you're not sure at first if he understands you like his brother did, because he kind of flinches at a moment before he finally nods. He goes, that is Muhal. He is a Hibben, a priest of opiate. I know him fairly well because my sister Rose, as she says, as he points, and you can see the sister is wildly different from even Atlas and Lars here. Her blue skin with her bright white hair and white eyes. The family seems weird, to say the least.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Opiate dreams. It is in this world where we need to take our stand. Leave the dreams and opium smoking to the priests of opiate. As I sort of get to my feet, and as I do it, the sort of pain goes up, but that hole through my body, you can sort of see like it's almost sort of like my flesh is sort of like worms that are like beginning to latch onto each other and sort of it's not mending, but you can see sort of like the wrigglings of like through the hole of my flesh as I just sort of if there's no bandages around this guy's brought, I'll probably just go trek off into the forest and look for some sort of leaf matter that I can wrap around myself.
Well, I mean, he's kind of, he doesn't seem to want to stop you to go, but the guy with the torch kind of is like following you and like trying to poke at bits of the dry grass as wherever you go, where your blood seems to be falling, and he's kind of like got this look on his face, and he starts trying to say something to you in Pelganese. He's trying to say something. He's like, Edo Buddha, which Lars is understanding completely, but it's but basically he seems to be like beckoning you back this way and is pointing back into the town, saying something. Lars says he says there's calls for medicine and barbers.
I do not need medicine. My wounds will heal.
There's a look on their faces as Lars kind of tells him this, and the man's looking at him, and he kind of gives a grim look, and he says something, and Lars says he's been charged by a forced watchman to at least follow you and make sure you to do as was asked, to burn your blood where you walk. He says he could not in good conscience disobey.
Very well, follow me then.
And so he grips the torch tightly, and he begins to follow you. Lars, on the other hand, doesn't really. He starts to go back to the rest of the group, and starts actually looking over
I'm
Muhal.
also like
as
looking around for any of the orcs, particularly the two that I know.
Yeah, well, you might have to take a little bit of a search as you start walking away with this human still following after you, his face set, and periodically poking the torch into the blood trail that you're leaving behind yourself. You'll find them in time. It's not too long before you notice several of what seem to be your kind, either loping away, either into further into the city, or towards another part of the edge of it. But we'll turn our camera now to Muhal here, who in the moment is indeed not exactly like half in and half out of consciousness would be a good explanation of what exactly is happening to him. And you're actually being carried by people. So as you're getting weird parts of the city, like in some moments your mind is becoming conscious and you're seeing the rubble and you're hearing. There's almost like this perpetuate like hearing of sorrow and concern, and some people still like screaming. But it's not the sense of shaking, like that massive shaking, but there's still like screams of despair. You can smell smoke. And sometimes when you open your eyes and you're going to get a brief sense of the world as the world's distorting and turning, you can see flames licking bits of building, and you can see like others that have fallen apart. But whatever happens behind your own closed eyes, well, I'll let you describe the disorientation of your world at this moment.
As I'm being carried over perhaps over the back or in the arms or of one of these humans, perhaps far larger creatures. As my eyes you shudder open, then fall, just slam shut at intermittent periods, like a flickering green light in this dark evening. And from my perspective, I'm, as you say, half in, half out of dreams. The massive wounds and the blow to the head and to the side, making these visions far more vivid and horrific than I am used to experiencing, not in such a way. I see in moments when I'm fully unconscious, a sky not black but mottled, bruised, pieces of earth falling away, falling up, down, all directions, as if the whole world is decoupling itself. There is no up, down, left, or right. All is amorphous, and all things bleeding together. Bits of soil falling away, off and out of the grass and beneath the roots of the trees we're wandering through, trying to make some sense of direction in this changed nightmare landscape, even for those who are still fully conscious. And fading and merging into that bruised, undulating sky. The very air itself seems to move as if it was a fabric, as if the demons that crawl beneath and within that strange orc's skin, something similar occurs here. I look around and that rocking. Am I being carried? No, I'm on a ship. And I hear the cries of the anguish, the despair.
and it surrounds and suffuses me. Islands in the sky, this ship, and we all follow this exodus. And people, they walk waist deep through a stream, a river of blood. It branches off and veers. It falls up in the distance, several islands in the sky pour rivulets of blood down. I see, looming like a massive moon, that great ephemeral silver star. But on the other side of the sky is those baleful eyes of Ahriman on the either sides of each other in the sky, as if dream and oblivion meeting in this place. I mean, fade out into reality. I see this dreamscape interposed upon the real world. I see that, I hear that, get away from me, the cries of that orc, and crashes of, it seems like lightning, but there are no thunderbirds here, and things change and they move. Nothing makes sense. What is this place? I am between dream and reality. This is what comes. This is what threatens to unravel. All this physicality, it comes undone here now. Hope it is so close. And I get out on the river into the distance and see the wrecked and ruined bits of Flame Dan slowly coming into view. I must compose, regroup. I'm not dead. And look around. Those spiritual beings, whether they know it or not, they shine like beacons in this darkness, like psychopomps shepherding damned souls to whatever end. That strange Vaigish wades undaunted through that river of fluid, that life's blood of butchered and battered people, crushed to liquid from rubble, broken houses, felled trees. It stains him. He moves with purpose, and blood freezes behind him and around him, becoming a slush, a slurry of frozen death.
And there's another feeling as you're in the depths of this dream, as you're falling between what you believe to be the realms between reality and dream, and the weird overlap that seems to be happening here. There's also another weird pull, and you find yourself sinking further and further into it as the pulse of your own blood starts seeping away. And you feel even in your own consciousness, you seem to be falling, and yet you're struggling to maintain that connection to the dream. And it's almost like you don't slip so much back, but you slip sort of slantways into another dream, not so much astrally into that realm that you've been maybe only a few times before. You have not yet mastered the ability to truly project yourself fully into the dreamlands. You've been able to master your own dreams, but there's been a few times you've astrally projected on your own through that. But this is not the exact same. It's kind of the same, but different. You're going somewhere else. You've slipped down in slantways into something, into a deep, deep dream, like death. As a matter of fact, for a moment, you wonder if you have died. How deep this dream goes, and yet, no, you're not dead. But something dreams like it is. Something sleeps like it is. And yet in that same instance you feel this massive presence of the depths of this dream, of how deep this thing slumbers that it almost borders on death itself.
Mine dreams this false death. And I try to, as I slip into this dream, I try to reach out to feel the pull of whatever mind has created this world here in dreams across the veil where anything is possible.
And you reach out, and it's not so much like a pull, and that's the weirdest part. You realize it's not so much as a pull as the fact that you've sunken into it. It surrounds you. You are in it, and that's the thing that's even most frightening, is how massive this dream is, how potent this dream is. This dream of something that sleeps so deep, it's like almost like death itself, and its presence suffuses you.
I'm awed and amazed and fearful all at once. I'm this utter blackness, but still, my sense is still, my ego still exists. I open myself to this surrounding feeling, and as I try to open myself, I try to impose, not in a forceful way, but in an intermingling, like the land and the plants and the physical world being melded into dream, and that realm I've slipped from deeper into opiate or something else.
Go ahead and roll me a meditation astral. This is mostly just to see how well you do on this.
I will do that. 23.
23. All right.
Dreamer,
So,
open unto me. Receive. Let our minds and dreams intermingle. Why?
and it's almost like a shock. It's almost like a shock through your body. It's like you almost feel yourself like suddenly shock, and it's like needle, like wires almost, from your own little veins into your little arms, into your body and stuff, that stretch out and seem to pulse through this blackness, but not so much like weird veins of silver that snake their way across what seems to be almost like a cavernous mind. But you've connected, and you feel it as this pulse of silver light through these veins pulse through, and through you and into you, and your own pulsations flowing through it as you connected yourself to this deep dream of something, and you begin to realize that it's
silver. Death, yawning caves. It's the mind of an elder creator. This need we proclaim that death was dead.
And something seems to pulse further in the distance, like the silver pulsation seemed to go through into a core, and that seems to be where a sound, like something seems to be stirring slightly in this, as you're almost like suspended in this like web of silver veins, as this pulsation of something keeps going. and it's, you see it like this core, like this, almost like this stone of like deeper iron and silver and blood red, pulsing like a heartbeat almost from where these silver veins run.
I move or float or swim or fly. It's impossible to tell towards this heart, or am I sort of constrained in this way? Like I can't move.
You have it. You feel yourself. I mean, when you will to go closer, you're like, you don't so much as move, but you kind of feel yourself zooming in. But you are connected still to these veins, and you kind of zoom in. It's a weird sort of like effect as you come closer to this stony sort of heart that pulsates with something. But it's like massive. It's huge in comparison to you as you get close to it, and you feel the veins connecting to it as you stare up at this thing that eclipses you like a mountain. Little dream. Little dream. Who opiate does not visit. What is this? How are you here?
Creator, I'm so in awe. I would, I'd be stricken dead if I were in the real world. Somehow I'm able to not be obliterated in the presence of this eternal mighty being. My whole sort of form shivers and reverberates with just the awe and the every word pulsing through me. This is almost as my own soul meeting, if indeed this is Dhul, before my final end. I revert to Ishtan, my mother tongue. It's the only, but.
Well, you are in dream.
Right, the realm of dreams. A child of opiate comes to you in dream of death. Great being, well, you have been. Though it is. How could it be? Death is dead, but yet you live here. In the ephemeral realm. What has happened? You.
Death is dead. That I am Dhul's dreamer. Dhul is death. Death does not die.
Then return through dream. Through dream, we may find links to lost things. All time is meaningless within opiate. What has happened to you need not be so here.
You speak in riddles again. You make no sense. This is why we dream the death's dream. Go away. Leave your riddles behind. Take your riddles with you. I will sleep until death calls me to act again.
And I don't respond at all, but I try to force some of my own dream into this shining network of red and silvery lattice work of blood and sinew of this the mind of this great being, of something I have long dreamed myself. A Kavega Thale, but a different Kavega Thale. One that does not hold twin moons looming in the sky, nor a dead sun across the day pulled by a chariot of a disgraced goddess, but of a single shining star, day and night. The land where hope exists and corrupted wastelands of blue do not mar the surface. A land where things and beings and great, wonderful things shimmer in and out of being at all times, multiple possibilities layered on top of another. I think of this thing. I open myself to it as I pour out this dream. Think of this, dream of this. Let it be so.
As you begin to feed this dream, and you feel this energy almost, and you connect, and you're feeding this dream, you feel it, but then you see your own visage, and as you go, it starts to silver, and then there's a horrible biting sensation in your own mind, like someone just splintered something horrible, like a spike, and it burns, and you're in the waking world. In the waking world, you actually start screaming. You do not waken, but your body starts screaming in the waking world, and we'll cut back to this as this silver dream starts to try to eclipse you. We'll be back to you in a moment, but now back to one who runs away from beings of light in horror of what his own essence might be. Searching for someone, searching for those two in desperation. David, you've managed, as far as you can tell, to have escaped that shining being and run through these streets and seen more people standing over their own bodies but not really paying attention to you. Even as you approach most of these aren't even human, and that stand over their own bodies. A good portion of them are ogres or satyrs. And even as you try to interact with them, they don't seem to notice you. Even when you grab them and you shake them, they kind of notice you for a brief moment as you shake them, but then they turn back down, staring at their own bodies, as though lost in their own thing. And you're beginning to have this horrific sensation that you might actually be the only one like this.
Standing amidst these shadowy forms, turning around and around, looking at them all, looking around, trying to just make sense of this situation. What the fuck is happening? I can't even fathom. I can't dwell here too long. None of these people will help me. They ignore me. The survivors must be gathering somewhere. Need to find them.
Mm-hmm. It's over there that you actually something catches your eye, something silvery. Well, kind of silvery. It's weird. And you see a group of people carrying people who are injured or seem to be taking them towards the center of town, but it's this smaller creature. This creature that is being carried seems weird. You've seen one or two of these things around. They may not be one of the most popular species here, but you've definitely seen what you've heard to be called a hibbon being carried. But it's weird. It's like one half of it's like split down the middle. One part of it is that sort of gray, sort of muted colors despite its vibrancy in the real world. and at least from what you're understanding, and unlike with the state through your own vision, but the other half seems silvery, like silver itself is like composing half of this, and this is the thing that seems most vibrant to you in this place, that brightness of silver. I mean, like that being of light that seems so vibrant and real, this seems more vibrant and real, and something like being pulled into it, almost like the moth to a flame. You almost can't help yourself being drawn to this person who isn't dead. You know that. He's not dead. His own spirit's not standing over his body, and yet there's something else here. Something deeper.
I regard him with a skeptical look. I try to hesitate for a moment, but he does stand out. Something about him, something different and unique. Perhaps he can help me. Perhaps he can see me. He won't ignore me like the others. I hurry over there.
Mm-hmm. And in that sensation of being like next to him, you feel like this connection, this weird connection of this silvery sort of aura on half of him, and you see his body is starting to thrash down below, like it's like something is troubling this thing.
Like he's having a seizure?
Yeah, like he's having a seizure, or he seems to be in pain, and like other muted shades are like trying to hold him. Some are starting to put him down and trying to like hold him. What his beak, its small beak is starting to clack. Someone actually manages to grab a stick and try to like put it under his beak, as though trying to keep him from like biting its own, like piercing its own tongue.
So they appear to be helping him.
They seem to be able to be helping him. Not that you seem to be able to interact with them.
Right.
But this one seems weird. Like you almost feel like you could touch him.
I stand in the midst of this little crowd around the owly creature, observing for a moment, just soaking in the details as I try to discern what's happening here. And then I figure I'll lend a hand. As I extend my hand towards him, and the icy feeling goes away a bit as I draw near. And I grab.
And when you grab, it's really like the first solid thing you've actually felt, and your mind, and you suddenly, your eyes go wide as suddenly your own mind isn't even in your own, well, not really your own body, but you're in your own state. Is suddenly you're like pulled deep into something, and you find yourself suspended in a weird space of like weird blackness, and there's these veins of silver cascading around, and you see the little thing thrashing about. Everything's so, I mean, his colors are so bright here now, which is weird. Now you're not standing over his body, you're standing in this weird dark area with these silver veins cascading around into this great mountainous stone heart of iron? Silver? And yet it's so red, like blood. See this light, now the bright, vivid colors of this little creature starting to be like almost like parts of its body are starting to like crack and be like have silver. Those silver veins inside it are starting to surge and starting to like overtake parts of it, as though the connection between them, like something's fighting back against him. And Mual, as you're feeling this, you have this weird distortion state that you're not alone in this dream anymore. There's a strange being, like a human, pale white, and it doesn't make any sense. Who is this? Is this another? But another ice pike of like pain strikes through you again as the silver starts to try and dig through, as the voice resounds, and you can even hear this too, David, as you hear it, as you go, little Fae, do not plague my mind with dreams. I sleep death sleep till I am called by soul's hammer. to come to walk this earth again.
Time's time. A new elder creator calls upon you, spirit. If you are of rock and silver, if you are of the precept of death, you know this to be true. There are no limits in dreams.
Death does not die.
It has been
Death does
seen
not
by the silver
die.
star.
Go give me a chance to see if you can roll an astral meditation. David, how you're hearing all this and seeing this kind of go on, like weird, like ghosts through the shadows, and even through like this weird, you can almost see the visions of their conversation happening through the veins of silver, like an argument is going on between them, and yet for some reason, despite the visual, you have a distinct understanding of what exactly is being said between them, even if it doesn't entirely make sense, like how death is dead, or this thing that seems so powerful and mighty compared to your frail essence.
Yeah, my bewildered gaze is flicking back and forth between the form of the Hibben and this strange place and the echoing voice as I try to make sense of it, and I listen intently to what's going on. But I stay where I'm at, but my stance, I look very tense, a little crouched, like I'm ready to move, but I don't know what move to make.
Mm-hmm. So, Nick,
Yes.
like I said, roll me your astral meditation to see if you can either make some sense into this thing or at
21.
least not 21. Okay, I need to roll something here real fast. Oh, let's see.
Oh, come on, give in.
No. I'm sorry. It does beat you. It actually boosts at least once here.
I don't know if it boosts on resistance, but
Yeah.
unless it's trying to do something to me, in which case it does.
Well, basically, it's like you're literally trying to bash against a wall at this point. That's what it feels like as the conversation is trying to go. It's like it seems stubborn, like absolutely stubborn. It doesn't seem to believe you. Like it just wants to go back to its depths of some dream that, like a dream without vision, a dream without sight, a dream of a death, a dream of death,
Mm-hmm.
where no thought, no sound, no vision can plague it. Like the antithesis of everything that you've believed.
I try.
And just as it keeps thinking about riddles and like how it does not take too kindly to does not take kindly to these lies and these riddles that you attempt to plague it with.
Meanwhile, I'm losing my mind. I've gone from bad to worse into this even more nightmarish landscape. What is this? Where am I? I want out! Out now!
What? A human mind? Who is this? 3 minds in one dream. Now I'm confused too. Like that, this sort of, as this human calls out, it's sort of, my own sort of concentration is lost, and I'm sort of, overwhelmed in the massive presence of this primordial dream.
But you heard me. You acknowledged me. My gaze snaps to you. And I approach confidently towards the Hibben to shake him violently. Get us out! Wake up!
What do I see when I look at you? Or do I not even see you, but see just concepts and dreamscapes?
Well, to be honest, it's like for all the most part, this
It's probably too chaotic.
being looks exactly. He looks exactly like how he's envisioned himself in life, except there's just this pale, ghostly shade to him, and there's almost like silver in his own essence as well as he grabs you and he tries shaking you. But then it's in that connection that both of your minds are almost seem to be like joined into one against this thing, and you have almost like a mingling of your own dreams and minds of each other at this moment. You understand that this is not a living soul that has grabbed you, that has joined this dream with you. You understand. You know him. You know his name. And he knows you. And it's not exactly in the same way that you have like a sort of like a strange sort of information dump. He begins to taste your dreams, the dreams you've had, that vibrancy, the taste of opiate, of the freedoms within the astral dream, of the shuddering of the world. Both of you feel this terror, this shock, this understanding of the world being shaken apart as you feel it. But you also feel this connection of each other going through the veins again and surging into this entity, this thing. And there's a pause. The pain has stopped. That silver tinge across your mindscape is gone for a moment.
I see and know with my soul now what death is like. I feel it and know it as you have felt it, and you know and see and feel what I have witnessed, the death of death itself. I pity you, ghost. I know your name in this instant. Though I did not know you in life, we have shared a bond, unlike anything that can be experienced in the foul fleshlands. Such true understanding and union can only come in this place. You spirit, do you not see? Do you not sense with your alien mind? Taste the taste of life and of death. With these minds, these dreams, we are one here. I sense my own ego threatening to dissipate. You with me.
My mind lacks the training of the Hibben. I'm just standing there in shock, mouth agape, eyes wide, as I listen to the words he speaks, still processing that massive rush of information and memory.
And then when you feel the
What is
words...
your name that we know each other? I'm going to call you your name. You're David?
Yeah, it's David.
David.
Hey.
Cling to that which you are, David Anzelot. I sense the true core of yourself. Let yourself not be obliterated. Cling to all your hopes, your dreams in this place, and you may live eternal. For while so many things have died in the real world, I say that ironically, and here, true reality reigns.
This is wrong. You feel this power, this presence through you, and you feel like a sense of like anger and disgust, like cascading through you through these silver veins, and it's actually snaking into you, David, as well, as it like grips into you and pierces you, and you feel like literally feel the disgust and anger of something that is powerful, something more real than the both of you combined together in a moment of this mind. This is wrong. This is not as it should be. And the silver lights begins to pulsate more and more, and the mountain in his heart starts to rise again. And then suddenly, you are awake, both of you, like cast out by something. And and there's like a stick in your mouth as this is, and David, you reel back and you're staring in shock as over from what everything has happened. But Muhal, you can, as there's these people coming around you trying to make sure that you don't like thrash yourself to death. Some are trying to like bind their wounds like impromptu, like trying to keep you from biting your own tongue and everything like that. You see David as he's staring at you in shock in this world, and yet faded and almost translucent against the rest of the world. And that's the weirdest thing. You can see him. You know him. And you can feel him. He's there. Just there.
And what you would see is a rather unremarkable human standing there in clothes that are not gaudy, but refined. The jacket is lined, nice leather, or at least it was. Now it all looks frayed, unraveled on the edges, ragged, as if it threatens to dissolve completely and pull apart into nothing.
And you see, for your benefit, this tiny 3.5-foot tall anthropomorphic owl with brilliant blue plumage upon the head, merging down, modeling into a sort of a dark green, and brilliant emerald eyes, and horribly wounded. You can see him being carried, or perhaps being sort of put to the ground to try and keep me down. Yeah, for brevity's sake, that is what you see, and I start to thrash of just firing back into consciousness, this realm of limitations and cold and heat. I cry out in Ishtan, these gibbering things which probably no one around here can understand. Mind of death, children of Dahul, awaken! Their dreams are lies. They do not see. And I thrash about, and then I see you, standing aside from the group, alone and faded like a wisp, almost as if you almost don't exist already, so faded you are, but those massive green emerald eyes sort of lock onto you. And as we are one in some ways, and it's that gaze. No one looks right into the eyes of you've experienced people walking through you and looking through you, but this Hibben, this strange Fae, sees you.
And I pause as our eyes meet, and there's that realization. You're looking right at me. There's no doubt that you can see, and I see you. And I stoop over and extend my hand to help you up, wondering if you can grasp it.
But even if you do, it's like passing through smoke, through mist. And for the most part, everyone seems to be trying to keep you still in your own panic, and they're like calling to see if someone can get a barber for you, because you apparently have like lost it. There's like a fever has broken over you, and they're trying to get a barber here as soon as possible. As a matter of fact, Lars bends over you now and is trying to say words of comfort to you. He's still panicked. It's in Pelganese as he's talking over you. Muhal is like, please, Muhal, please calm down, Muhal. It's okay. Someone get me water. Get me water.
Sort of
We need to break this fever.
of these things, still experiencing those visions, but strangely enough, they're holding me down. I reach my hand up to you, leaving absolutely no doubt that realization you have, although we pass through each other, but.
And it's so cold.
There is
feeling
no exchange.
So cold.
As there is no exchange more than heat, I feeling your warmth, you feeling my icy cold, I grimace, I frown, and my eyes water a bit as that disappointment, as I hoped for so much more, and yet I still remain alone.
Yes. We are going to turn the camera as you live in this moment for a moment, as you know you see each other in this feeling, and Lars is trying to get medicine for you. We turn now back to Rakandu, making his way through Flame Dance, seeing the smoke, seeing the devastation, seeing the crying wails of people. Satyrs, orcs, other Hibbins, other things. And you see actually from one building that seems to be burning horrendously, you actually see strange creatures that, well, maybe not too strange. You may have actually seen one or two of them back a long, long time ago, back in your former life. These creatures that are almost 6 feet long as they move on four legs, as they walk into one of these burning buildings, their rubbery skin seeming not so much as touched or even scoured by the heat. And they walk through these flames into the buildings and then walk back out carrying under like one of their stubby little arms children. Salamanders.
I'm jogging and I pause for a moment, reflecting upon those distant memories, those memories of longing, those memories of home, how far away it is now, and where I would remember, perhaps one would remember home, being so far away, and sort of sentimentality. Instead, my brow furrows, my eyes narrow, and I sneer slightly as I slow to uh, a strong walking pace from my jog. As I pass by, I look almost with contempt at them. And to my knowledge, none of these creatures would be ever forest watchmen.
Salamanders, there are no salamanders in the Forest
Yeah.
Watch. The only salamanders that you are aware of tend to congregate and seem to live among in the Temple of Morgul.
Yeah. But I pass by and I look at the children, but then I fall back into a jog and I continue down. Of course, I'm going directly to the sort of headquarters of the Forest Watch. If there's some sort of building or anything like that.
There's not really so much as a building as a there. You know, there's that Hansa Kuhn has a home, or at least an honorary home that has been placed within Flame Dance. He doesn't always seem to go there all that often. It seems he's more at home, being near the woods of the Whispering Woods. But his wife tends to live there, though you've never met her.
And though I loathe
but-
and fear
but,
both speaking to any of those people, I still push on. I push that fear away, and that trepidation, and those memories, and seeing those salamanders that sort of hazes, sort of blurs my vision, blurs my duty, my path, what I must do. And instead, as I move through the streets of Flame Dance, I can't help but think of back in the cold, back upon the mountains, back upon the great flames, steel. And then I stop and I slow down and I try to get a hold of myself. I quietly close my eyes and I take 2 breaths deep and I recenter myself as I have been taught. And I slowly open my eyes again and I look around, reinvigorated, my purpose renew, and I continue on making my way through the streets. I am keeping in mind not moving miles away or anything like that. I don't want to go nearly that far. But
it's not long. You are looking for Forest Watchmen, and you actually see Zargo the ogre is actually seeming to help a train of like other ogres and satyrs, um, carrying like helping most of the injured and moving them towards what seems to be another direction of the town.
The the oafish ways of an ogre, very clear to me, though their strength is respected. I pause in my jog. I sort of pause, and as I see that, and I start veering over to him, jogging over. I just approach him, and
What language do you guys usually speak with each other? Since
I don't know Moolish, as I don't care much for their tongue, but I'll speak
he
to him in
knows
Peltese.
he doesn't know Pelganese, but he knows Tehulian.
Oh, okay, then I'd speak to him.
Yeah.
So I approach
So
him in Tehulian and I say, Zargo.
Rakondu, help me. These there's medicine and barbers near the house of near the harvest house. You must get them there.
Do you have this situation under control?
Hmm. Yes, but there's still others. There's many others under buildings, under rock and rubble. Some have fallen into chasms. There's death everywhere.
Have you received word from Hanser Kyun?
He shakes his head. No, we just have to. We're trying to do. I'm just trying to make sure I can get as many people safe and comfortable as I can. There have been no direct orders. I've not seen Hansa.
I have situated a congregation down to the southern side. If you follow the street down there, make a right and then left, you will find them. They're coming back into Flame Dance, looking among the wreckage. If you would bring your members here to that location, that would be best. I will look out. I will continue on. I will look out to the Harvest Master's home. And with that,
He nods and he actually like hands over one of the ogres. He's helping to another ogre. Starts giving them directions before he starts running off towards the direction you had pointed of your group.
which
And
I continue moving as well as a man of action.
man of action.
I fall back into a jog. It's not a sprint, as I know Flame Dance to be quite a large. I assume it's not like a packed city. It's more kind of spread out a bit, so it's a bit more of a long distance sort of jogging. And of course, all those days, on all those days off, I did all those walks and all those jogs. It's paying off now, boys.
Yeah.
As I run down the streets and I'm making my way over to what I assume the ogre was assuming the House of Valex.
The House of Alex and Quincycillian. Yeah, the Harvest House.
The useless cult that it is. I make my way. I make my way over there.
All right.
That's my next sort of destination. I am also keeping in mind, in sort of mind of where the group is and where that temple is. You know, I'm keeping in mind of the distance. I don't want to be too far away.
Yeah.
I lost myself. Or even worse.
Honestly, it's another section of the place. It's another section of town, but you can see there's other people being like congregated and set down near other places, either because they've gotten exhausted or they've managed to find a group who's willing to start doing their own trade of medicine and stuff. There's one area you notice is mostly congregated with orcs, actually, as it seems to be this sort of like set of like tents and yurts, and yet around this tents and yurts is this like small tower of stone and rock, and in there and on the top of the tower is this round circular face with like two hands going on, and you're looking at it and you see it's actually keeping track of time. and you can hear the sort of like tick, tick, tick resounding through here, even amongst like the screams and the pain and the sobbing of people and the crackling of flames. Mostly orcs have gathered here, but they
I don't
definitely seem
slow
to be
down at
tending to
all.
their own kind.
Yeah, I don't
But
slow down at all with them. I continue on having a clear duty.
yeah, it's not too long before you may make it, and you see the harvest house itself, and part of the section of the temple is actually you can see it like some of the walls have like fallen into like a large crack. Um,
Harvest Master!
but
Start just shouting in Albanese. Harvest Master! As I make my way over, looking to an entrance or just an opening. I slow down, obviously, and I carefully look. Having no grades in carpentry or masonry,
well,
I keep an eye on my foot.
unlike as as you're looking at this, I mean, they're lying down people not inside the church, as obviously the church seems to have been compromised, but they're laying them down out in front, and you can see members of faith, those dressed in the yellows and browns of Quincykellian's face to the purplish oranges, and others of darker grays of the Valexian faith, all seeming to mingle together. And there is a satyr who stands, and he seems to have a mixture of both the yellows and the gray purples mixed together in his clothing. As around his neck is this wooden medallion with a corn stalk standing tall with a pumpkin sitting right at its base on there, and there's like a definite like weariness in his eyes as he looks to the calls that are being made out, and he kind of gives you a look for a moment. What language are you calling out this in?
Pelganese.
Pelganese. Then he does recognize it, and he beckons you towards him.
And I jog on over to him. Are you the Harvest Master?
Yes. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I got his name. I have it written down here.
I'm Ricardo Castillo of the Forest Watch. I've come here seeking herbs and remedies and wrappings. There are several other groups of which the other fellow Forest Watchmen have throughout Flame Dance.
Yes, I am High Priest Bandor. You are welcome. Welcome here. We are gathering the injured and infirmed here to give them treatment. Are there those that are too injured that they cannot make it? We
Yes.
need to use as many. Then I will spare you at least some. Get at least enough to get them here, so we can treat to them proper. Or he gives a call out, and he's speaking out in Sindarian to another satyr who nods and bounds over and manages to grab what is the injury, so that we can at least treat their pains, or give me what details you can about what afflicts them, what injuries they've suffered.
Bruises, cuts, and there was a particular case of sickness in one individual. I believe it was a hermit living in the outskirts of Flame Dance, and he has no family caring for him, as far as I know, but he is mortally wounded. I believe it is an orc.
Then he sort of gives a small frown out, and at hearing this, it's like all orcs that have been brought here have gone straight to the temple of Nithraxu. They do not wish the caring of even ours, even in this tragedy. But if he comes, he will be treated well. But it sounds. But how mortal? Where is the area? What can you describe the wound so that we may be able to prepare ourselves for it?
It had fallen onto a debris, would puncture the side of his body, and I gesture and sort of wear
Mm.
on my own body.
He gives a small like, ugh, like that is definitely seems to be one of the more horrendous wounds. I'm afraid there's not much that we can temporarily do. I can. He calls out to one who brings like who seems surprised at first at the order that's being given, but he says it again with sterner before the man comes over and brings fresh bandages over. It's the most you're going to be able to do until he gets proper care is to be able to bandage it with clean cloth. He says as he hands this to you along with some herbs and such. These will take care of some of the pains and such, but they are going to need more medication than this. This will be a temporary relief for most of them.
And I take it and I nod.
Mm-hmm. I wish you well, Forest Watchman. Bring them here, and we will care for them.
Understood.
The community must stand strong with all of us.
I look back at him and at both the two satyrs, and I nod, and I turn at a 90-degree angle, and I walk faster, and then I fall into a jog.
Mm-hmm. And Atlas.
My way.
And we'll cut to Atlas here. You'll get here soon enough again, Rakondu. But Atlas, you have been walking with the rest of the group here as they've carried Muhal's body. There was one moment, a real scare actually, and Rose seemed one of the people. Rose seemed one of the most panicked of it when Muhal suddenly seemed to start breaking into a seizure. And even now, as you're standing over there and trying to calm the people around him and his body, as Lars has bent over and is trying to keep him from injuring himself further, as you watch your brother tending to this, it's this real sense of panic as you're looking around and seeing the environment around you, just the fires that have caught into buildings and are starting to spread slowly. You see some people are actually managing to get are trying to grab buckets and trying desperately to toss water onto these burning buildings to try and put it out, but there's so many injured that it doesn't seem like, unless somehow these people trying to fight the fires are organized, it doesn't seem it's going to be all too effective.
Okay, so basically there are a lot of injured. There are some people trying to salvage the buildings, but they're not doing it effectively. Okay. How spread out are they, the ones that are trying to salvage buildings?
Mostly it seems to be not a lot. There's no real fire chain or anything like that. If I were to say people handing buckets along a line and stuff like that, it seems like everyone's kind of in their own sort of shell-shocked sort of world at a moment. Some people are trying to grab the injured and bring them over to some place of safety. There's others who seem to be having like I said, some seem to be focused more on their own homes that are starting to go down and are desperately trying to find water in any way or form, and grabbing a bucket, tossing it on the fire, and then running off to wherever they've managed to find water and stuff like that. It's absolute chaos. People are not organized. And aside from your little group, yours seems to be the most gathered group of people, which seems to be about maybe a little over 20-25 people.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try basically to the people that I see putting buckets of water. I'm gonna go towards I think this is more like a massive a roll of dice, or we role play bits. I'm gonna describe everything I have in mind, and you tell me how you go. What I want to do is basically the ones that are salvaging buildings. I want to go and tell them, you know what, your life, the building may be recovered, your life will not. come to safety, and the other ones that are like scattered on their own cell shock, I want to go and say, okay, hear me out, calm down. There's a lot of people there. They are eating the weak. Maybe you have some pa, pa, family. Maybe you have some family there. Like basically, I want to like go do this, but as they are scattered, like I don't know which part we role play, which part we roll dice for, or both. So you leave that to me, or do I leave that to you?
Um,
That's more or less what Atlas wants to do. Like basically, yeah, gather everyone together and get them to the group, and to
you have an easier time with the ones who seem to be like carrying their bodies, as it's very easy. Like we're all trying to gather the people to get to a place. The ones you're having a harder time with are the ones whose homes seem to be burning. They seem to be more intent on trying to save their own homes. They're like, and they're not. It's like mostly satyrs and such that are trying to like grab water and toss it on here. There's a few other mixed race species that they've managed together, but they're kind of like looking at you and like kind of like what, like you're out of your mind is like you can take care of the injured and stuff. I must take care of my home. I have to take care of my home.
I tell him that water can be used to treat a lot of wounds. Tell me what's of the most value in your home. Tell me exactly where it is, and I'm gonna try to give it to you.
It's not so much that if the fire spreads, this entire town will go up in flames. Flame dance will be nothing but ashes if we do not put out these flames.
Does that sound true to me? What skill would that be?
As you're kind of it's actually as you're looking around, you're seeing patches of flames all over the place, and the smoke is getting kind of thick and heavy. To be honest, the way you're looking at it, it might not be too far of a stretch. If they don't get these fires under control, there might not be a town left.
Okay, if the water is very far, wouldn't it be? I don't know how savvy my character is on this, because I don't know which skill would it be. But wouldn't it be better to throw ground instead of water? Because you're exactly there, ground. Maybe with some shovel. I don't know.
Well, it depends on where you can get the how far you can like toss it up. Yeah, ground is good. Don't get me wrong. Ground is good.
All around.
It's just
it's there.
Good. But it's just there. But unfortunately, it's like either that's not what they're thinking of, or there's something. It's harder to grab from the compact dirt and toss it high onto the flames. It'll scatter too much, unlike the water that will cover more and dampen the wood, which seems to be more.
I will try to go to the fire. And the fire seems to be getting ever grower, or to be more or less under control with this little help, or to grow like very.
It's going to grow regardless. What they're doing is they're doing their best to try and keep it under control, but because of the fact they don't have like an organized fire line or anything like that, they're going to need a lot more people to be able to keep a constant flow of the water. It's going to get.
I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm gonna run towards the group that's like the most. The group that's already like with the wounded and all. I'm gonna go towards there, and I'm gonna actually find Lars. I'm gonna try to find Lars, and I'm gonna say to his ear in Pelganese, we need fire control. With whom should I talk? I don't want to start a panic.
He's looking over Muhal, who's like still kind of like in his own sort of world, kind of. At the moment, he kind of looks up at you. He goes like, "You're gonna need to get a lot of able-bodied and strong people. You're gonna need to get
a priest of Morgul." I just think like a priest of Morgul. They can move the fire, right? To a single point.
He kind of thinks. He's like, maybe. I think so. You'll want to go to the House of Glowing Embers. That's probably where they are.
I sprint towards there.
Yeah, so you're off on that direction, and that's around the time where an ogre comes round and starts. An ogre and Rakondu. Actually, as you turn the corner, you run slap bang into. As you're making your way towards the House of Glowing Embers, you actually spot Rakondu, who's coming back with bandages and what seems to be poultices.
Okay, Ricardo talk to me in Pelganese. Okay, I say to Ricardo fast. I assume there's no one too close, so I more or less shouted. I'm gonna go get the priests from Morgul's temple to help out with the fire so that they don't spread. I say this like jogging a bit in that moment and then going back to the sprint. He may follow me, he may not, but I want like
I don't follow
before
you.
possible. You follow me.
No, I don't follow you. I don't make.
Okay.
I don't reply to you. I just keep. I just
Okay.
pass by you and I keep moving.
Yeah,
Like
it was
the
just
only
yeah.
acknowledgement is me. Like I turn my head and I look at you as we pass by.
Okay.
So keep going.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I was like informing you. Yeah, I'm in my mind like he has stuff to do. So okay, I say that to you, and then I go try to sprint towards the temple and ask someone for help.
As you get to there, the brick building itself, part of it is collapsed, and you actually see fire in it, but that doesn't seem to be a problem. As actually what seems to be the oddest part, as you're looking at
Mhm.
this, is a bunch of individuals of varying species, mostly salamanders, are actually sort of like sitting outside the
Okay.
temple and
Okay.
and really sort of just watching what's going on around. And they've actually got a few people around them as well, and they seem to be administering to some wounds and stuff. They actually bring like especially the salamanders is these things. They're bringing like hot coals and searing it into some of the more deeper wounds. There's some screams going on, trying to at least sear away the bleeding and such before some of them grab some of their own poultices and herbs and start maintaining wounds. For the most part, they seem to be dealing with wounded, but seem to have but a few who don't seem to be administering things seem to be at least sitting outside and looking the directions of flames and muttering words which sound like they crack, like when the fire pops and cracks on wood.
Okay, I'm gonna try to ask I'm gonna like go to where I see most of them together and like pass all the languages I know, like can you understand me, can you understand me, can you understand me, until someone pops ahead and I get Traxa Pelganese, Thuban I got.
Thuban actually
And
gets a response. Thuban gets a response as you go through this. As there's a few of these salamanders who kind of look up at you, very
okay.
like annoyed because you seem to be like, and some of them seem to be trying to like brush you aside because they either don't understand you and they're like they don't seem to be in any rush, which is the real thing. They don't seem to be in any real rush. The
Yeah,
only real
yeah,
concern they have is the injured. Before one of them looks up and is looking at you as you say Palgonese. And what is it that you're? Can you understand me? Yes, Clayman, I understand you.
please, I need some help. Maybe I should make a theology roll for if I know they wouldn't put out the fire.
You're
Would
kind of
that
in a
be fair?
panic right now, and
Okay,
you're kind of
understood. Okay,
sorry. You might
understood. Okay, understood.
try talking.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I just wanted to know if that would be common knowledge, but to my character. But okay, okay. So I tell him there's some fire that might spread out elsewhere in the village, and I would like some help so that we can at least contain it.
He kind of is looking at you. All right, well, it is kind of looking at you. You're not sure if it's male or female. That's the hard
Mhm.
part with
Okay.
salamanders, anyway. As it's looking up at you at this thing, which is odd. There's like 6 feet long. If it were to like stand on its legs, it might be almost as tall as you. But because of the way it's hunched over and such, it's weird as it's kind of looking at you with these alien eyes as its gills sort of flare up at this.
Okay.
We are aware of what of the fires. They will burn in time. Morgul will have its hunger satiated in time.
Could you help me out, make Morgul satiate its hunger in one place, please? And I'm saying this like I mean like I don't want to disrespect him, but I'm like as I said it right now, it's like please like in one place, Could I do something to convince you, or maybe someone could do something to convince you? I just want people not to panic. Of course, you wouldn't want the people to see Morgul in an ill light, right? So.
It kind of looks. It's looking at you in this weird alien sort of way. Morgul will have its fill. Morgul will die out when time comes, when there's nothing left for it to feed. And he turns back. It's like he's kind of like it's like it's dismissing you entirely of the fact of like.
I say like thank you, and I run the fuck out from there because they're not gonna help me. So okay, then I go back to the. I try go back towards the group. Oh god damn it! What do you do about the fire? I will ask Lars again because I don't know who should I. He mentioned someone. Or did he not?
He didn't. He wasn't. You kind of rushed off before he got a chance to say something.
Okay,
but
I'll go back then. Yeah.
At that point, Rakondu has turned the corner and he's talking to Lars. As a matter of fact, there seems to be a bit of an argument as the fact that he's lost the orc.
Okay.
And it's that where I cut off as the ogre's leading them on towards the harvest house in Rakondu. You're probably rather unhappy because of the fact that Lars, one of these humans, none of these humans have done what you asked, which was to look after the orc.
Yep. So
the orc is gone.
So I have the thing under my left arm, and with my right arm, he says, maybe he's like, oh, I lost him. And, and I look around a few moments, and then I look back and my brows furrow, my clawed hand goes out to his throat, and I just grab his shirt, and I pull him close, and I kind of sneer at him.
Oh, Lars
of anger.
Lars doesn't wear a shirt, so you're probably not his neck.
Then I'm by, like his shoulder like this, and in my claws, and I scratch him slightly, because I got claws. So
that seems to be the problem.
I
I'm actually gonna touch you, but I'm not attacking you, and I'm gonna touch you in the shoulder, and I'm gonna say, what seems to be the problem?
Then I turn to you, and then, I'm kind of like visibly angry, then I calm myself down. He had lost the sick one.
Yeah, he told me that, he said that he actually could heal itself, and I don't know if Lars says that's true. I buy it.
I
said that he could heal. He said he could heal himself with fire.
I look at you like dumbfounded, and I look at this other human named Lars that you're referring to me as. Like I do, like my brows raise up, my eyes like it. Then I just let go of Lars, and then then I turn to Lars. Did you see where he went?
As Lars said, he began walking off in away, like on the outskirts of the town. The other human, the one with the torch, kept following him. He insisted he kept going.
Here. And
to burn the blood.
I give to Lars, just like the wrappings and whatnot. Here. I will return to what was asked, which you both failed to do.
Rakondu, I did help some. I couldn't help as much as I wanted. Do you know who I can speak to make the fire stop spreading? I know that the priests at the Temple of Morgul don't want that. They don't care if they want the fire to spread, I think.
Look for a well, a bucket, water, anything. Do I need to tell you this?
Okay, understood. Okay, so I basically am gonna try to use my insight basically to see who seems to be more or less unoccupied, and tell them like, you know what, come here. We're gonna help out. We're gonna help out the city so that that this doesn't burn out. And I do this like I'm using my inside emotions more or less, seeing the more composed people basically, and I tell them like to their ears so it's not like don't be a fire because I don't want to fuck everything up. So I'm like basically using my skill to see the emotions, see the ones that are most composed, telling that to their ears, like trying every language relatively fast and see the flickering of understanding in their faces.
When I said that, I
Yeah.
turned and I just went to where Lars had pointed. You know, he's got what he needs.
Yeah,
And follow.
back towards the edge of where you had left him in the first place was where essentially he had left, and like walking around the edge of the town. So you're hoping that either that there's a trail of blood left behind, or at least the scorch marks of where the bud will be able to help you figure out where he's gone. Um, but yes, so Alejandro, just to make sure I understand what you were asking, you're trying to get people to help you, like try and put out the fires.
Exactly. I want a lot of people because only me getting there with a shovel it won't do much. So I'm trying to see the
Yeah.
people that are more composed and could help in any way to yeah. Then we
Yeah.
would figure out if we get
You managed to
buckles or
grab a
shovels.
good Yeah, you managed to grab a good number of people, not just satyrs, but you managed to grab a few orcs. Actually, you managed to grab
Heathens love to help
some
people.
hibbins. You do have quite a few hibbins actually. Mostly, you're getting the people who are uninjured have delivered the people who have been most injured to them, and are still wanting to do anything they can do to help. So you are actually in no short supply of people who are capable of helping or need that extra push to
Awesome.
do something other than stand around in there. So in
And
in
and I
maybe in the
do and
last
I
next people are grabbing buckets. Some are getting fire lines together. Others are joining you in the fact of grabbing shovels or any kind of like hose and tools that can grab earth. And then you begin to start fighting the fires. And we'll leave you there to as you begin your fire lines, as earth and water begin to mix into mud, and smoke and wet wood begins to fill the air. And we turn now back to Kishka with his injury. The blood still coming through out of his wounds as the wound itself keeps trying to reheal itself, but not quite latch on. It's almost or tears itself anew in your movement. There's definitely a sense of at pain, and yet you are not alone as you walk through trying to find your way towards some people you recognize. In the distance, you see from time to time some orcs, and you head towards them before they're almost swept up in the crowd. But your constant companion, the human with the torch, makes his way through, but keeps following you, in duty. He seems to have somewhat gotten over the initial fear of you, as you are not. Um, mm, Adi. Adi was the name of the young mother, and matron. I have her name here. Mm-mm. Hold on. Bachi. And here, the human with the torch is still dutifully following you and keeps burning the bits of blood that you leave trailing behind, though the torch is starting to go low as you make your way. And you see there's at least one group of orcs you actually see who are helping another who seems to have like broken a limb as they're carrying them towards a bigger, what seems to be, at least from the edge here, towards a certain area of the town. And it's not long before, as you keep doing this, you see this. They're all seem to be congregating at a certain area.
Adi, Marty, Orcs of Flame Dance, I seek your wisdom and counsel. The people of this place are crazy fools.
Well, you're not wrong. The human is still following dutifully. Doesn't seem to understand you, though he seems to be trying to like not listen to your words so much as he keeps burning the things. A few of the orcs that are closer, the ones carrying the body with the broken limbs, stop and turn. One of them actually seems to like eyes seem to like widen in shock and fear. Most of them are kind of in. It seemed to almost like sort of like shudder away from you at first, but they see the human bear behind you still burning your blood behind there before they realize that you're probably not too much of a danger. But then one of them recognizes you. It says, oh, you Hishka. You who live in cave. Yes,
The cave
we all.
is no more. It collapsed in the fury of the Ground King.
We are all gathering. We are all gathering, bringing the injured. We bring them all to Nthraxu's temple. Oh, we all gather at the ticking of eternity. Come, come. Are you injured? We will tend to all our kind here. Come.
I am fine. See to your own wounded.
The matron will be there. She is gathering as many as possible. We must gather to the Thraxu. We must gather to the 44. We must divine what has happened. Come, though your diseased flesh be an affliction upon us all, you are still your mother's child. Come, come.
Am I still bleeding?
Yes. The bleeding has not stopped, which has been kind of annoying to you, to say the least.
This can't be. I turn and reach out my hand and grab this torch off this.
He nearly drops it out of fear as you're reaching for it, but as soon as you grab the torch in there, he stands there waiting.
And I suppose you'll be hitting me up with some HG here as I grab the torch and just singe the wound on the front of me and then turn and do it once more on the back.
I'll give you one since you're really just searing the wounds shut, but it definitely hurts. It's pain. There's the burning of your own flesh, and you can actually feel to a sort of degree of satisfaction as the demons are kind of like recoiling from the purity of the flame. But even then, that's very short-lived.
I then toss the torch back at the human who is leaving and turn and I follow these orcs to the temple of Nthraxu and the trolls. Finally, some wisdom will be imparted on Hishka's on me. No one else seems to be able to do it.
It's not long as you're being shepherded along. People, and you're actually getting to see the real destruction of the inside of the town. You have never actually been inside Flame Dance before tonight, but seeing the fires that are being spread in certain areas, and as you see people like running along with like buckets of water, and you see people who are trying to carry bodies. And the stench of death and smoke, and there's just the buildings that have fallen apart and have been burst open or half sunk into the earth itself. Yeah, it's even though you'd never actually been in here, it's just the sense that this place probably was thriving, and the fact that it's just been torn just in this one event has been torn and shooken apart so horrifically. But finally you get to what seems to be the Temple of Nthraxu, the ticking of eternity. You see it's this squarish sort of building with a tower that has the face of a clock ticking away. And there's orcs either gathering infirmed orcs in front as your kind begin tending to their wounds, mingling herbs with what you recognize to be some of the sacred arts of your people, at least carefully disguised, or even if they aren't being that carefully disguised, no one else seems to really care or have noticed this going on. They're all tending to each other and their wounds. A few of them actually look up, and some of them are like recoil in shock and horror at this. Some others still do, but recognize you, and there's a muttering amongst them as they're speaking to each other. Why is he here? What has driven him out of the mountains, out of the cave? And just mutterings around before some of the bodies have been there, and you actually see Ate over there. She seems to be she is not uninjured, but what seems to be her issue seems to be like a few gashes that already seem to have been tended to with poultices and stuff, and she's already moving on to other injured individuals. But she looks up and her eyes widen in recognition before she lopes over to you. Ishka, you've come here.
Young mother, it pleases me to know that you have survived this travesty.
And she almost doesn't even listen to you, as she's like already looking at the now seared injury of your belly, as she's looking at this as with absolute concern. And even if you try to stop her, it's her fingers. Even if you try to stop her fingers will bat you aside as she puts her fingers onto the wound itself, despite the ravaging of the disease and the suckling mouths that are still a natural part of your own skin. And as she tries to press on it, and it hurts, it really hurts as she does this. This is some severe eternal injury. Come.
Pay it no heed. The undertrolls are in my lineage. I have been blessed with some of their gifts. Fast healing among them. A night's rest will do me good.
Then come.
I'll follow her. I mean,
Yeah. She's bringing you away from what seems to be.
I have great respect for her, and even more so for her mother, the matron of this place. So yeah, I follow her.
Yeah, she brings you actually into the temple, where the sound of the ticking seems to be resounding. This is the oddest part. As you're walking in, you're beginning to realize as you've come in here that of all the buildings and stuff, even a few of the places you would have recognized at some of the temples have actually not suffered well at all. Some parts of the buildings seem to have fallen apart. And here, but as you walk in here, this place seems to be perfectly fine, like almost untouched by the sense of the shaking and such. Like the machinery here has been perfected to such a degree, even with this event has not even dented a bit of it. As a matter of fact, the worst thing that you see here is probably at least a small part of the roof having caved through. But even then, that's just the one bit of it, the small chunk of the roofing that has fallen through, leading up to the sky, where unfortunately the light of one of those baleful moons is staring down into. But that seems to be the worst of it. But inside you can hear the tongue of your people speaking in Thraxa. It mostly whispers at the moment here. Oh, this is a travesty. This is
I'm looking around. I remember you. I think it was Uata that said there was shrines to the trolls here.
Yeah.
Is it inside the temple to Nethraxu?
Yes, it is.
Well, I definitely stop at those and pay some respects to them, especially when I get to onto Ori Nuascus. I sit in front of it, sort of like legs folded, and just to sort of to myself, like not announcing the crowd and none of that sort of showmanship. It's just a real deep personal moment as I sit down and.
She leaves you to be as she goes to further in to talk to the individuals who seem to be whispering and talking amongst themselves. So you can have your moment of peace to pray.
Hurry, no Ascus. Is your balance I seek. But so far, my first steps on this journey have been rocky and unbalanced and prone to failure and fall. In your wisdom, I seek a greater power. Something deeper, sturdier, more ancient than even Ahriman himself. I seek this oversoul I read about in the Book of Great Truth. I think with understanding of the ancient eternal abyss, therein lies maybe an avenue to bring about the balance. The teachings bring about the balance that your teachings so called for. I know that I am not pious as other members of your clergy are. I am walking my own path, but know that it is the learning path of balance that I learned in your halls.
And I just sort of start beginning to meditate. I sort of like drown everything out apart from the sound of the ticking clock tower of Nithraxu. Just sort of drowning it all out and just the tick tock and I'm just in my own way. That's sort of my way of praying, I guess. I'm just meditating and in my heart is although it probably doesn't seem like the moment, it is warm and very affectionate and respectful and appreciative to, I guess, everyone in this area, and in particular Ori Noascus, as far as I'm aware, it is a very distant lineage of hers, which I share. Probably meditate there for quite some time before raising up and looking around to seeing Oasi or Bachi, just sort of anyone trying to get involved.
Well, you've sat there for quite a while trying to gain an understanding of what's going on, trying to calm your mind as the tick, 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 tick. You just let that sort of sound sort of suffuse you. And even as you're meditating, it seems strange. You almost don't notice it, but it's the distant sound of the sense of that ticking seeming to suddenly come less and less and less and less, till suddenly there's one resounding And it's all still and silent. And even as you stand up, you realize to a degree you yourself are not exactly standing up and looking around. It's almost like a strange detachment from yourself. As you look around at this place, and everything seems still and frozen in the moment, you begin to stare. You almost can't help but yourself, but your mind and your senses seem to drift upwards, almost a tilt. And you feel it, your mind drifting out from where you're standing. And you yourself, your body isn't raising, but it's your own thoughts are heightening. As you seem to see out that open window where the light of those moons, those baleful moons are. And yet rising up in the distance, you see the light of the sun, of Ahura Mazda, rising up in the heavens in the same moment. The moons and the sun in the same space, light and darkness, coalescing. And you see this line between where the light and the darkness meet itself. It's not twilight, it's not darkness, but some strange mixture of both that cascades down. And as you're looking down, you begin to see something else. It's so strange. You see where the water meets magma from the steam rising at the edge of the world, from the heat and the fire. Even between where the water and the flames mix, you see something similar, a similar mixture of the two mingling together and yet different at all, and it also seems to stretch. And you see that between land and stone of the underworld, you see that line and that section mingle where the mountains jut from underground into the skin of Damar, and it mingles. But you see this mingling also with the air and the earth. And even then, you see all this reality itself mingle with something that stands outside it. Reality and dream mingling in that same moment. These lines connecting each other. Opposites to each other, mingling and bringing this strange sense of balance. But then you begin to realize that's more. It's not just those opposites of each other, but even the darkness and the wind, light and the underworld. All these lines are beginning to mingle. You're beginning to understand, like almost like a spider's web between them all, mingling together and crisscrossing, until at one point you see where all the possibilities of the opposites, or where these things touch together, meet at one singular point, and then it's there. You see like a window, and your mind travels towards that window that almost seems like an eye staring out. And you find yourself pushing past that ultimate point of balance, not just between light and darkness, not just between earth and air and fire and water and ice. You see all these things mingling together into one point of true balance has opened a window, and you push through it. You feel suddenly a sensation, just true passing through this window of ultimate connectivity, a connection. and understanding, and you understand your place where you're sitting now. You understand you're still sitting at this temple of Nithraxu, and yet you are at the edge of the world. You are at the bottoms of the underworld. You're at the highest heavens. You are at the deepest extents of the outer darkness. You are all these places. Even now, as you sit here, you are all these places. And yet, you're not at all these places at the same time. You see the threads connecting between all these places and them connecting into you. And extending even further out to something beyond, on the outside of all of this, connecting to the darkness, to Ahriman, to Ahura Mazda's light, to Nithraxu, something older than all these things, connected, interwoven to each other. A nothingness that feeds everything. That feeds you, and at the same time you feed it. You are the nothingness, and the nothingness is you. This ultimate moment of a cradle beyond understanding. And it's that moment, that small pinnacle of understanding. It's not oblivion, but something more. And that's unfortunately at that moment, as you have reached this point, that the door opens and you snap out of this meditation, but you bring something of that back with you. So I'll get your thoughts on that before I speak as Ate, beckoning you in to where the rest are of this weird transcendental moment.
As I come back into my mind,
thank you, Orinoascus, for your vision and the journey you have showed me. I believe you have shown me the void. Yeah.
as I'm sort of like, definitely processing my thoughts for a while, is that
This is the true face of reality.
I mean, like, this is the first I'm actually talking out loud, so like people might have walking by them and maybe actually hear me.
This is the true face of reality. This is the connecting point of all matter. All the creators stand upon this form.
As I sort of like look around, people almost moving in it sort of, it seems like they're moving differently, as my mind is almost like one step ahead, as I'm like seeing like the footstep before it actually takes place. As I'm looking around, it's actually quite like confusing for a while. Before I center myself back on the shrine, and
I do not understand how to appease or please such greatness. But this is the path I will walk. Blessed be you, Orinoascus, who still is trapped in the prison in that oubliette. If that hole truly descends down to hell, you'll find rescue parties. You will not have to wait so long for rescue parties to venture there. It's such a clear path.
I sort of like lean down once more.
Thank you for your wisdom. The path of balance is the path of the void.
And I sort of stand up, and it is, I'm quite swaying, whether it's the wooziness of the loss of blood, or the just being overwhelmed by these primordial forces, like the comprehension of that task. probably the true comprehension of that task a bit beyond me. Although my reading is what I came out to come out of. But I move about a bit woozy, and I'm looking for our young mother and Bachi.
Yeah, and you actually see her. She's staring out the door that she's just opened, and she's just kind of looking at you, kind of like there's a tilt to her head and a concerned sort of frown on her face as you turn to look at her. But even then, it's weird. Maybe it's your new perception. Maybe it's your new connection to something. This understanding you have of the world. It's strange. As in that moment you understood when you were in that meditative space your place and the connectedness of yourself to all these things. It's strange. You almost begin to understand as you're looking at her as the first real living thing you've seen in this place. You kind of have almost a sensation of the fact that she is, in a way, exactly the same, in the sense that connection, that this understanding that you have, but the thought that all these things that you were connected to in that moment, that meditation, you're still connected to, and that she too is connected to all these things. Maybe all things are connected to all things. That's something that is a strange thought passing through your mind as a blood loss. Maybe it's something else. Hishka, are you all right?
Young mother, I've received great vision. Balance will be brought upon this world, and the avenue of balance is the eternal void, the so-called oversoul of Kvigathail. Are you a follower of Ori Noaskis? Or do you, perhaps, know deeper paths of knowledge?
There's definitely a look of confusion. She's looking at you with her, despite that strong feeling of connectivity that you have, that weird sort of look in their eyes on that idea. She seems confused. No, I sing the songs of oak as my mother has done. I know little
Yes.
of the void. But come, come. My mother and others wish to speak with you. Come.
No. Yes. As I follow her.
Mm. And you enter into this place, and there seems to be a round sort of table here, constructed what seems to, oddly enough, as you're looking at it, mostly out of roots of trees and such that have all mingled together and spread out in a weird sort of pattern to make a makeshift sort of table. Definitely not natural construction, but at the same time, seems to be still living wood. Perhaps the use of the arts of oaks and such. But even then, as you're looking there, you're not alone as Eati brings you in. There are 5 others. Her mother you recognize, but the 4 others you don't. Another female orc, more heavy set, almost near nude, sits at the table and has her eyes closed as though listening to almost everything that seems to be going on around, or at the very least seems to be in deep contemplative thought, and doesn't even seem to acknowledge when you walk in. Another is cloaked in black and wears a mask over its face. And when the mask turns to you, you realize there's no eye slits there. It's smooth, and when you look into it, you see your own face reflected back in it at it. But otherwise, this one is tall for even an orc, and thin. Another sits there and seems to have intricate carvings carved along its flesh from one tip of a fingernail, which has grown long, and etchings into the fingernails carved along the arms in intricate patterns and tattoos going down its chest, down its legs, wrapping around its face, around its eyelids. There's a moment when it takes a deep breath, and you can see even its tongue has been carved. With also these intricate patterns.
I only pay my respect.
Wise elders, speaker of the dead, matron, great matron, I seek your counsel and wisdom. What is going on in this place?
It's not Bachi that speaks, but the voice that comes from behind the reflective mask comes out like the rattling of dry leaves. Tool's final death throes is what has happened to this place, child.
How? Death? Dying? That makes no sense. What? Explain, please.
You don't have to explain.
Yeah. Well,
we definitely
well,
covered that last session.
Well, he explains to a degree about the fact that
Yeah.
the fact of that the unreality that is Ahriman has managed to slip in somehow beyond death's door. It's when the one with the carvings actually speaks up. Can you not taste the sorrow of the air? And he sort of laps with his carved tongue. Can you not taste it? Does your breath not feel heavy? Is there not a sob at the back of your throat?
I have become much accustomed to the taste of sorrow. It blends into this environment and air very well, I assure you.
I can taste the wind. And it is sorrowful. Igvale brought this upon us all, unwittingly, I believe. If the whispers I hear from those of the wind that I speak to are to be true, you, child who bring... And he's looking at you, this one with the carvings all along its face, looks at you. You are the one who lives in the hills, yes?
No longer that cave is fallen. The people of this place, they did fear me. Some had the courage and perceptions to see I meant them no harm. Although I do find their composure under a crisis to be a bit childish, running about like crazed animals. Elders, wise speaker of the dead, and
Is this tattoo the carvings guy? Would I like sort of work out who that is?
Yeah, he is definitely seems to, at least from his speakings about speaking to the wind and tasting it and stuff like that, he definitely seems to be connected to the path of the summoner.
Okay, yeah. So,
and summoner of the great winds, I implore all of you,
like moving on to business here.
please pass upon me knowledge of dark shrines or temples in this region. If you say it was Ahriman's work, then our retribution we must strike fast. Show the Shadow King that we will not cower under his gaze.
Nice. And they, the ones, they all kind of, most of them give looks towards each other, except for the one who's kept its eyes closed this whole time, and just silence and thought. And Bachi.
So while I'm judging, I start like rattling off like some dark divinities, obviously starting with the two that I know really well.
Ahriman, Ashitaka, like Achira. I sort of like struggle to think of another one.
I don't. My knowledge of the gods isn't very well known. I basically just know the ones of the long night. I was sort of thinking,
any of their shrines, temples, we cannot show defeat or allow Ahriman to take away from us the fight of the trolls, the Thraxu, and the 44. Instilled us as the guardians of this world. I stood before Dahul's death, defying Ahriman, and although I despaired for a moment in the greatness of his wrath and the destruction, I am renewed with vigor and strength.
As I stand this just like just totally fucked up for me, man.
There are still those of courage in this place. A man, a foul Valgish, who defies all preconceptions of his race. I see vigor in him. I see fight in him. There is a man with chains, and I see love and compassion in him. I am sure that if we were to how does I trouble these words? If we were to implore the people of this region, we could raise up and strike back at the dark divinities.
And there's a few points where some of them seemed like they're going to say something, but they stop stop as they look over at Bocce, who does not move, not once, from her position as she sits there. And it's seeing that her watching you and not moving and not really expressing much in terms of emotion. They remain silent, and they let you talk yourself until you are essentially exhausted.
Yeah. I start like
speaking.
grabbing like my wound, and I'm sort of almost like leaning over a little bit, like.
Ishka. And this time Vachi finally speaks. for the first time. It's after 30 seconds almost after you've done trying to catch your breath. Comprehension of perhaps any of us who sit here. And yet, inside you burns a rashness almost mirrored of the younger races that run shrieking for cover outside these temple walls. But you do not shriek for salvation. You shriek to strike out, and rightfully so. Ishka, your suffering is great. I mean, do not let that consume your own need to. This world has the most devastating blow. You're right. Darkness must be struck, but not now. Now we must find a way to strengthen ourselves, to rebuild, and understand the consequences of what has just happened. You are still young, Hishka.
Yeah, I'm sort of so built up with emotion. I was quite hoping that they would just sort of like, yeah, it's there, and then but at the same time, like I have too much respect for not only the matron but also for just all orc elders, and I sort of like lower my head in deference to her great wisdom.
We will strike when we understand. What's worse is we must figure out how to rebalance this world. Tahul is dead. What will happen with the souls? She says, as she gestures towards the orc with the reflective mask. Where will they go? While we do not necessarily condone entirely the troll cycle, Tahul is still important. Was important. You must understand the consequences of this action. We must understand our own future. What happens when death is gone? Even if one of those foul usurpers is to take Tahul's place, we must understand what this means for our world.
As
We will,
I
yeah.
definitely just I stay silent and just continue to not lower my head.
Forgive
We will,
my anger and passion, Bachi. The events of today rekindled some old wounds and memories. I am still young, and my rashness clouds my judgment. But I accept your words and wisdom.
Lowering my head.
but it is that passion that I think must be brought to bear against the darkness, says the tattooed, or the not necessarily tattooed, the scarified orc. He's looking at you with some interest. But you are young. Your path not yet set.
My path is beginning to reveal itself to me. Orinoascus has granted vision. I am beginning to come to terms.
You see it, don't you? And this is the voice. This is the voice from the one orc who has kept her eyes closed this whole time and has not moved and does nothing but listen to everything. And this is the first time her eyes open, and they're the dirt brown of the soil. And she's looking right at you, into your eyes, unflinching, completely. You see it, don't you?
See.
Well, see is not the right word. You feel. You've felt all
Briefly,
things.
it was an overwhelming experience.
Then you do begin to see the beginnings of your path. Follow that feeling, that connection to all things. Between the elder creators, between this world and that world beyond, between you and us. And your path will be clear. Ticha Baraksi Nikumba. She speaks. And the tattooed, individual sort of sits up. Your understanding of the lines, of the spiritual lines of this world is great.
I would
recommend.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I would recommend instruction to him under your care. But his path is not that we can follow. We can only grant him the keys to his own enlightenment. And with that, she closes her eyes and sits back and does not say another word, even if prompted. The orc so named, with his scars, kind of looks, nods, bows his head respectfully towards her. You were going to speak, Hishka.
I was an initiate. I was an initiate at the Temple of Orinoascus before. The foul rider of Asidahaka ruined my clan. It's like I learned the languages of flame, darkness, and light. You say to follow the connections. Are they the paths that I'm to follow?
It sounds like they are the paths you are to follow, and more. You have touched something beyond that is all these things and beyond them, from my understanding. You will learn these paths. You will learn these keys. And you will learn beyond them.
I will.
You are not ready to face the darkness until you learn to master. And he sort of gives a smile, and it doesn't exactly seem like, you're not sure if it's actually a kind smile. But it's not wicked, but it's also not comforting. Until you've learned to face and master your own darkness, you are not ready to face those darkest of divinities.
Hmm. I
And it's there that there's a banging at the temple. Bung, 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 bung.
Yep.
And the temple, an orc comes in. There is a steel bearer looking for this one, he says, and there's like sort of a glare in your direction, not necessarily like hateful, but sort of like you've brought this upon us all, kind of like, how dare you be the unwitting cause to bring the steel bearer to the temple of Mithraxu.
Well, was he addressing?
Yeah, basically.
Was he addressing me?
Yeah, he's dressing everyone in the room,
It is the
but
one
kind of
I
definitely.
spoke of. He is not like those of his race. He does not seem to follow the path of war.
Perhaps I will see and be the judge of that myself, young Hishka. And your apparently new teacher joins you to follow you out of the Temple of Mithraxu to meet up with Rakondu, as there's a bunch of orcs kind of giving you death glares.
I hold my
For your
own.
appearance.
I hold my own from withstanding the waves of contemptuous, judging looks from these individuals. I stand there upright, shoulders square, just waiting, very, very patiently, as I'm also taking this opportunity to breathe.
Yep. It was only this opportunity, as the smell of smoke is still drifting through the air, but it seems to be coming down more as some of the fires seem to slowly be either being put out. Not all of them, but a good portion of them. But the orcs, at least, were not exactly too enthusiastic about your presence here. It was only through the fact of your force watchness and the fact that you named Hishka by name that they even decided to even somewhat requiesce your request to have Hishka brought to you. And as they continue their glares and they're dealing with their wounded, the temple door opens, and out does come Hishka, but also another orc with those horrendous carvings into his own flesh and tongue.
And like as they step out, I step back away from the door, and I very slyly just sort of do one of these with my hands, like I sort of put both my hands just resting on my blade on my belt, and I address them. And I address you, Hishka, as I look at you, and I look at your wound, and I look up at you. And I say in more ghoulish, "Are you being treated here?"
Yes, I am being treated and also being instructed great wisdom and knowledge.
Is it safe for you to be here? For them to be here?
Yes.
As I sort of like show you a bit more that like I singed my wounds and I'm no longer bleeding.
I look at that, and then I amazingly trying to be all respectful, and I look at these two obviously crazed individuals that mark themselves in their strange tribal ways, or monster and some other sort of weird tribal markings this other orc has. But I regard it, I look at it, and then I look back at you. Will you be stationed here during the recovery?
I look to this guy who's taken me under this orc has taken me under his wing.
I look at him.
As you're looking at him, he doesn't seem to say anything. He just seems to be kind of like, he just seems to be observing you. And there's a weird smile playing across his face, and it's like, it's not menacing, but it's not nice either. But he doesn't say anything.
I didn't catch his name either, did I?
No, it was to be honest, it's a very complicated orc name. I'm not going to repeat it again.
Wind Speaker. Am I to follow you?
For now.
Where? Well, are we stationed here? Do you have residence in the town?
He kind of...
Is the presence of this Vayakish holding your tongue?
He just sort of smiles again at your questions, and he almost seems to give a chuckle at your incessant questions here. It is like, so many questions and so many, not enough time to give answers, young Hishka. And you say the young ones are impatient. We are here for now. You are to follow me. For now.
Hey, I lowered my head and following him. But I do turn to Rakondo and say,
gratitude for your concerns, but the cave is gone. You will not have to watch over me on a regular basis in your patrols.
On the contrary, I'll need to know where you are.
okay.
I'll need to know where other bands, whether it be orc, human, satyr, I'll need to know where they are, so that if another event like this occurs, other watchmen may be sent out to the location. You understand this?
Well, I do not know where I go, and the wind speaker here does not wish to tell you or I. So I guess you'll just have to trust us.
There's a pause. Upon your abode, you had seen the great chasm that had opened.
Yes, I almost fell.
You are to not go to that edge.
What was that? Say that
You are
again.
to not go to the edge of that chasm.
Okay.
No others will be allowed near that chasm out of fear of falling, as you yourself had said that you nearly fell.
That is understandable.
Is there a name here of which I may call upon if you are not here? Another orc.
Bachi is the matron and ruler.
Well, not ruler, the
Matron and wisest of elders here.
Understood. If your people are nomadic, the ground the shaking has upset you in some ways in your philosophies I do not know, but if this means that not only you and the other orcs here are to be spread out in the lands, or to leave the lands, be sure to let me know so that I may let Hunter Kyun and the other forest watchmen know. We are not sure of what other dangers might be here in Flame Dance and beyond its border. You may need an escort.
There is much to meditate and ponder and learn. The gods will and other divinities will vie over the chasm of power that is up for the taking in Dahul's demise. How does this bode for your people? Your metals and love of smithery.
I would not know, for I believe I am the only of my kind here.
These mysteries will reveal themselves to us over the passing days.
And but as I sort of like, I do sort of like come close to you, as maybe like sort of grab your arm or part of your shirt or anything, as I sort of come into like a whisper in your ear, as I say,
but once these mysteries have been revealed, we will strike back at the darkness, and I hope to have you at my side, Rakondu.
And as at the end of that, I kind of pull my head away like that, and I step back, and I raise my chin up. But then as I raise my chin up in like a little disgust, I lower it down. My jaw clenches. A non-vocal gesture of acceptance, of agreement.
nice.
In which
Well,
I slowly, like I nod to you, and then I look at the other orc. I sort of nod to him as well, and I turn on a dime. I turn like a man of the military, like a soldier. I turn on a heel, and I briskly fall into a brisk walk and then a jog.
And with that,
and
we'll turn.
I too
Yeah.
follow the wind speaker.
Back into the temple at that point. And when you close the door, we will now turn once again to
Cool.
somewhat an overview of what's going on around the place. So, Muhal, you have been being carried now in these things, but even as you walk, your eyes still see the vision of that man, or that translucent man who follows you. The only one who can see you, David. As you walk towards the harvest house and you were set down, David, it seems almost by providence, by following this creature, the only thing that has shown that he can see you. You see them. Both of them. Your wife and child.
Ah! And my face lights up with delight as I smile and quickly approach them. But then as I take those last few steps to draw near, that smile fades and I frown as I realize extending my hand and it goes right through them. No!
And even as you touch them with that, you can actually see them shudder. And they try to wrap their blankets around them as the
Maria!
stranger that's attending.
Eva! I am here!
There's no response. They sit there, and even then, they are the one things. These two people, they seem to be the one things that seem to be the most bright and vibrant thing to you in this place. Their colors are still somewhat muted, but compared to the rest of this place, it is. They are the most bright and vibrant. But even now, as you try to reach out and touch them and try to speak to them, you realize that even then, you're still apart. Muhal, you sit there. You're being tended to. Poultices are being applied. Your mind's probably still racing with that and trying to make sense of what it is that you saw, what you felt, what you understood. And then something looms over you. Many have actually tried to get out of the way of this thing, saying something, but something has loomed over you. And even the few ogres that you begin to realize you're looking at this thing is taller than ogres. 13 feet tall it stands. Stony and rocky. With a heart, with a stone heart that you almost seem to recognize, emblazoned right in the middle like some gem, that you actually feel yourself somewhat recoiling. It's almost painful just to be in the presence of this thing, as you recognize what that stone is in the center of this being's chest. It's not just silver, not just iron, but Tehulian blood iron. And this thing that stands is like this great statue with curved horns and blocky hands and eyes of silver as it stares down at you. And you can't really make much of a feature, but as it looks into those eyes and it looks into your eyes, you recognize each other. You were in this thing's dream, and it knows you, for you were in its dream. And you stare at each other, no words passing, for a while. Atlas, you continue rallying troops. As a matter of fact, it's at this moment you begin to realize as you're shoveling dirt onto flames, as others are tossing water, and you're giving commands, and along with others in there. In this moment, it's weird to see that it doesn't matter what your status is as a bastard. In this moment, disaster has brought community together. In this moment, it doesn't matter that you're a bastard. What matters is that you're helping to fight for the survival of others, and that's all they see you as someone trying to help this town, this community. And in a weird way, even those that would normally seem to look at you in disgust follow you without saying a word or a word of protest, or at least if they do say something, it's to give a better suggestion. but the fires are beginning to be put out. Finally, after hours have passed, and at least a section, not all the fire is gone. Dong, 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 dong. And the clock strikes 12 times. Midnight. The day of Igvale is over. The day of dreams, or rather, the night of dreams has begun. Rakandu, you stalk these streets, making your way.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I say it? Just the moment I hear the bells,
Mhm.
I have not slept for over 3 days.
Mhm.
And when I was doing all of this, I was sprinting. I had no penalties to anything because I thought it was the Mar that was sustaining me. I don't know if it's the Mar. I don't know if it's myself thinking about the Mar. But all of this time, I was just so focused with everything, focused on the shovel, focused on the compact earth that fractured and became all these little ground dots that then became a whole thing in the shovel and then again fracture as they go towards the flames to hinder its growth. As I do these commands, almost like half asleep in a part of my head, and then as the other part was completely clear on what it's doing, what are the commands, what is to be done right now, what is the duty. But then I hear the bells. And just as if maybe it is because the Mar is weak. Maybe it is simply the weakness of my human clay form that cannot bear more without the sleep. But in the moment the bell rings, I am giving a command and I start falling. My legs feel really trembling. I put to my forehead the fingers and I'm thinking completely like an automaton. Like if I don't realize that I am falling right now, I'm thinking there needs to be put more ground there. I'm thinking that I am actually shouting a command, but I'm actually just imagining it while my knees fall to the ground. And I'm thinking that I get the shovel again on the ground, but I don't get the shovel again on the ground, at least not how I should be, because my hands just use the shovel as a stick while my knees are on the ground, and then finally my body succumbs and falls and sleeps deeply with the wounds that it has suffered, with all that has been done, with all that it has gone through, even physically and metaphysically, with the pains of so many people that he is able to see more keenly than others. He is just fallen in the beginning of the day of dreams.
And as many begin to surround your body and like attempt, some of them calling out for medics, some you being carried off to the harvest house to be treated. Rakandu, you make your way through these burning streets and stuff. And you see a gathering of some of the forest watchmen. You see Obi. You see Zargo, Zoya. You even see Zanzik there, and they've all gathered around a figure. One that even in your cold steel heart, when you see him, you're both enraptured and horrified. Your stomach drops. Your heart pounds a little harder. And you see Hansa Kyun gathering the forest watchmen. And his eyes look at you and you feel them like sharp swords through your gut. As he sees you, and with trembling anticipation as he beckons you over. You go. You are led back into the temple. Hansa, no, not Hansa, Hishka. And you are led into a darker corner, in a private area, where your new mentor lays you down with some bedding. You will rest, Hishka. Tomorrow, when we get our bearings, and the matron and the king speak, your training shall begin. And it is with that, we will move on to soliloquies. I'm sorry if I wasn't able to get to everyone exactly evenly, but I know we're on a bit of a time constraint here, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this so far, but we will go on to soliloquies. So who would like to begin?
I could.
Okay.
All right. David Anzalon. I'm reunited with my family, so close yet apart. I can't even embrace my wife and child now. What have I done to deserve this? He called me a ghost, a spirit. Is that true? Is that what I've become? Stuck in the in-between, only able to watch with a longing? This is not justice. I am an honest man. I work hard. I dispense the law. I help people. Why am I forsaken? Helena, I ask you, haven't I been loyal, carried out your will? This doesn't make sense. It can't be real. I need answers. Books. I'll have them. Perhaps Muahal will have them. I need answers.
Next.
I can take it. I see some propped up, some meager amounts of Barbary being put upon me such that I can maintain consciousness. I'm still quite wounded, unable to really move very far. The slow, heavy footsteps come over me. I see this elemental creature, this being of rock, and iron, and silver. I see the only witness to David Anzalon's despair as he cries out futilely in horror and rage and pain. I see all the wounded around, still the groans and moans and cries of people being injured, things being removed from people, surgeries being performed. Then the bells turn. Such wonders and horrors this day has revealed. What a new day has come. The day of opiate, of dreams. Yes. Oh, David Anzalon, I know you as I know myself. You know me in kind. I speak the names with both reverence and love, complete empathy. There's Maria, Eva. You do not know, cannot see. Your beloved has died, but yet lives. Look to this thing coming. To who? How similar we mortals can be, even to such eternal forces. Those with the wisdom to pierce the mundane. So much death, so much despair. But there is hope. You, creature. Oh, your name is on the brink of my mind, but your nature confounds still, no matter. Opiate has woken you from your false dream, your false death, though you rail against it. It now stands in front of me. I stare up at it. Through dreams, you will be made anew, and even you, giant or spirit, in your despair, hope will come to you. I will show you the way. The silver light of opiate will transform that silver that counts for your blood. You will be made anew, as this world will be made anew. And then look over to Rose, sort of still whimpering or huddling in a corner. Dear Blossom, you will help me. You will help them all. While you cannot speak, powers of your imagination are so potent. Just need a gentle push. And the bells go off. This day. On this day, the world is reborn. Yesterday, the world died. But today, there will be a new world made. And it will be glorious. That is all.
He has to tell me if that music sounds really shit for everything.
I can
As
hear
I-
you.
Yep.
Laying down in my new abode, my demeanor has changed much in such a short period of time. That despair facing Araman's destruction, his vision of oblivion was coming to pass, and that filled me with despair. And now,
So I think about my people. The strength and will of the orcs will never be beaten. The Holy 44 and their tenets will always be upheld. For we are the guardians of Kavigathael. I was wrong to call out Ahriman, for I am nothing compared to him. But My people, the trolls, combined, and the knowledge we seek, that may weave a path through this darkness, a path of enlightenment so bright that the sun may even rise in its wake.
Renewed with vigor, I sort of meditate, thinking about those words of Bachi.
But I must control my ambition. I must control my emotions. For these knowledges do not come to those who are rash and full of emotion. No, I must be calm. I must be collected. I must cipher through these knowledges and add those that are appropriate to my base. This is something that I'm not naturally accustomed to, but the discipline instilled upon me by my mother. I will use it, and I will harness and focus it down these paths. Flame, darkness, light, my own corrupted affections, and the lineage of my trolls. These are my paths, these are my powers, and I will refine them. I will harness them, I will grow them like the plants of Damar. And when they bear fruits, Araman, you will taste defeat.
Think? Okay.
Good, Alejandro.
Oh, okay. So last we saw Atlas. He had fallen to the mar, deep in slumber and exhaustion. Perhaps the most exhausted he has ever been in his entire life. His strong back that had been contracted for maybe 3 days and contracted further the last day than any other day, just relaxes completely and lets his towering arms and shoulders rest on the mar, and you can see the mar, and you see his own nostrils. As people gather, you see the feet of the shoes, and some, maybe one or two, even barefooted. You zoom in and you see the face of Atlas on the ground, sleeping. It goes out of his nostrils, and the ground moves as it goes out, and the ground moves in as the veil goes in. And inside this mind, you see two Uhimali hands. These two Uhimali hands are with a background of ground. It's ground. It's actually a dark brown. These Uhimali hands, both index fingers, point to the same place where they start to form a circle, both from each side. Then inside, a form, they start pointing. Both at the same time, they start making forms in the ground, which can be understood by he who has very little formal training in geography as Cabegateo. Inside these forms of ground, and then comes some ground. The right hand comes and pours some ground, blue ground, upon where the ocean would usually be, and then the left hand pours sweat, and the sweat falls on parts of the map that start bringing forth vegetation. Then he takes his fingers, as both hands let some reddish, lighter ground soil fall from the outside of the circle, At the same time, they wiggle their fingers, making as if it was fire outside of this form of Capegathale. And this dark brown that is this soil. Both hands, at, both hands start wiggling, and some purple kind of sand pours out, and you can see wiggling. Then the hands wash it. Then they wiggle again, and then the hands wash it. Then they wiggle a third time until they wash and wiggle nine times. And you can see uh, 8 times, and you can see the star known as the star of opiate being formed in this purple form outside of the frame of Cabecathale. And then you see at the other side, that which is not the right side of Cabecathale, you see both hands digging deep into the earth, deep, and then they pluck out. And for some reason there is pure white. It wasn't put there by the fingers, but there is pure white that comes out of these 2 dots, each made by one index finger of the Uhimali hands. Then just a little bit of sand puts what would signify the corpse of the sun that goes around Cabegathale. And you can see outside Cabegathale hole marks, and you can see it rising a little bit as if something had been put underneath. You see all of this in this dream, but then suddenly you see as if you could hear the breathing outside of his body, the wind. The wind just spreads the ground that was showing these white moons, and then the white moons are completely gone on this wind. This wind has completely eliminated the white moons just by going. And then the whole Cabegathale sinks from this background of dark brown soil. It sinks, and you can see some of the dust coming out of where outside of Morgul and inside of Morgul you see some dust, and you see several fingers in each Uhimali hand penetrating deep on the ground of this map inside Cabegathale. You see them penetrating deep, and as they go out, you see the blood coming out of each finger, and the blood comes and digs in each of these holes that are left on the map of Cabegathale, fed with blood. And then those same hands go with the 2 index fingers back at the same place where the moon was, and they leave its imprint of blood. But this, as they go out, it's not red, it's orange, as if the soil had taken a bit of that red. It's just orange. And then, as if the soil had completely taken that, the orange leaves, but the holes go deeper, and again that white that is underneath, as if it had always been underneath. You see then these Uhimali hands, they go around, but at the air of this Cabegathale, like if they were wondering what else will come, or what else will they make. Then they look, you can see their palms as if they were begging or asking. They dig the ground outside of Cabegathale, but they leave Ahriman outside of it. They dig, they even bring some of opiate. They dig it and they lift Cabegathale, and is in that moment that you can see zooming out the hands of Atlas that is digging Cabegathale out of that ground, and it's in meditative pose, and it holds Cabegathail around the place of his chest, and then he looks at it. He puts it close to its heart, feeling that it's safe. But on that moment, he raises its head, and he sees that while he's sat on the ground, that while Cabegathail is on its hands, he sees that up there, in the darkness above him, gigantic white orbs look at him and at this tiny craft that he has done. And he feels it veil in its own body. How close is the enemy? How close is heaven?
Look back to the mind of Rakandu, back where there was fire, and those ropery forms of those of the lizard, those wide-mouthed, contemptuous, quiet, judging eyes of those things. They knew they were better than you. They didn't care what name you held. They didn't care if you had no name. They used you, all of you, my brothers, my sisters. I saw through their guys, greedy eyes, that they serve a thing that is greed, a thing that takes and takes and takes. I see you there, have taken some bodies from that building. See you there, watching the flames take the buildings, these houses of those that stay here. Though these houses, these people weak, they no sense of order. A horrible event has befallen them, and what do? Scurry, moving about, blaming each other, looking after their own. I guess it's to be expected. These salamanders used to speak to my father, to my kin, to my family. What did you tell him in those late nights upon the forge, upon his home? How dare you walk into his home and think you better than he, you and your hubris? I stride out of your home, I stride out of your gaze. I thought I'd strode out of your presence. It appears that you wander, stretching forth your web of influence, I see. You just want to own them, to have what they have. There was a time I had thought the same. Such fantasies of a boy, to have a wife, to have a family, to have children, to have a name. All of that is gone now. This vision, these people come to flam dance. I had thought by the name of this place, by the lord and lady that had sent me here, I thought it was just a name. These strange folk, these fae, so eloquent with their languages. These Fae are different. All of them. These satyr, these ogre. I don't think I like any of them. I don't think I understand them. When I see the eyes of this nightmare, when I see the eyes of this Mihangi, I can't help but think back in that forest when I was stripped, when I was surviving, when I felt the snow and stone and darkness surround me. Those eyes you look at me now with, those eyes peered at me through that black veil of night, oh so long ago. I think I answer to you now. I am no longer a boy. I am no longer a young man. I am a man now. I am not afraid of you anymore. I'm not afraid of you anymore. I have been taught. I can stand. I know the arts of my people. I know the arts of people that slay you. I've learned not to fear you. I will stand proud. The knights will see, and you will see, that your gaze harbors nothing to me. Nothing. And then I imagine that image of those fangs of his mouth slowly opening, that horrible hissing sound off from that forest and that darkness of a younger Rakandu. Horrible hissing, the faintest of footfalls in the snow. Snow falling from the branches of the trees. And I shiver with fear.
Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful game session.
That was good.
Yep.
I would
yep.
like to
So,
be the first to give my votes. If
hold on,
anybody
I'm
didn't
going to end the broadcast first here before we go to the votes
damn,
here.
I forgot we were still in that.
We're not done. I'm not done just yet.
Hold it up there, rookie! You're new around here. We don't do that on the air.
We don't serve your kind here. Your XP, that'll have to wait after the broadcast. Anyway, so thank you all once again for this great game session. We will not be meeting until next year, actually. As the holiday seasons will be probably messing with a lot of people's schedules here. It'll be in January when we pick this up again, but I hope this has whetted your appetite for more to see what's going to happen. And for the rest of you out there, thank you who have been watching and keeping up with this. We'll see you all in the new year and the new cycle and the next session of the day to Who'll Died. Bye bye.
Have a happy new year.